Back in the day, our boy and his childhood friend would just chill under a tree, lost in books. Until one day he jumps up declaring he is gonna be the greatest adventurer ever. But she immediately grabs his shirt, fiercely claiming she is the one who will be number one. Her sudden competitive fire completely catching him off guard, and instead of arguing, he just breaks into this huge, supportive grin. So she revises the plan. They will asterisk both asterisk be number one, the best adventurer duo in history. With a huge, happy laugh, she wholeheartedly agrees to their shared dream. Flash forward to the present, and our guy looks significantly more beaten down by life. He is slumped in front of a ranking board, absolutely crushed to still be last after 4 years. Behind him, some local jerks mock him for being a permanent loser who should just quit. This kid cannot even respond, just blushing with pure, unfiltered humiliation. This adventure ranking board is public, listing everyone's name for all to see and judge. But he suddenly roars back with fiery eyes that there is no way he is giving up. His gaze then lands on a name near the top of the list, Polaris at ninth place. A small, knowing smile appears on his face as he sees her name up there. He walks away, remembering the promise he made to her all those years ago. Looking back at the board, he confirms she has already climbed to the ninth rank. Even the bullies are gossiping about Polaris, the ice princess, amazed at her record speed. His own confidence is totally restored, inspired by her incredible success. Then he gives the bullies a cheerful little wave, leaving them completely baffled by his mood swing. Those same jerks are still gossiping, claiming they saw our boy digging through restaurant trash. They even mock him for being the total opposite of the ice princess, saying he stinks. Despite the insults, he just puts on a pained smile, trying to brush it all off. With a confident smirk, he turns away, completely unfazed by their pathetic trash talk. He claps his hands together, psyching himself up since he is totally used to this treatment. Now fully motivated, he looks out over the walled city, ready to tackle the day's grind. Outside the city walls, he approaches a strange pillar next to a shimmering energy field. Reaching out, his hand makes contact with the barrier, which ripples at his touch. He steps through the portal into an F-rank dungeon called the Forest of White Mist. His first encounter inside is with a group of unicorn-horned rabbits, not exactly terrifying. Suddenly, one of them lunges with surprising ferocity, proving looks can be deceiving. This fight is over in an instant, the surprisingly aggressive rabbit now dead on the ground. Deeper in the woods, a pair of wolf-like monsters are already feasting on the kill. Our boy watches from behind a tree, realizing he is not the only hunter around. He identifies them as young forest wolves, noting that they are already moving as a pack. Those wolves look vicious, having taken down that rabbit in the blink of an eye. A quick lore drop explains an ancient, brutal war between the gods and a demon lord. To end the conflict, the gods created massive dungeons to seal away all the monsters. This left behind these desolate, monster-filled landscapes for adventurers to explore. And within these sealed zones are places of strange, untouched nature like this hidden lake. So the gods gave out special powers called gifts to fight monsters, leading to the whole adventurer guild system. Adventurers basically exist to keep the monster population in check so the world does not get overrun. But for our boy, his grand adventuring career involves picking tiny bird things off the ground. He is stuck just gathering medicinal herbs to barely make a living, which is just sad. His special gift is called Monster Eater, which sounds a lot cooler than it actually is. Basically, he can eat whatever monsters eat without dying, a truly S-tier survival skill for a hobo. He is feeling pretty pathetic, hiding from even the weakest F-rank mobs in the starter zone. And for lunch, it is a block of garbage, confirming what those bullies were saying earlier. Suddenly, a scream cuts through the forest, and he is instantly on high alert. Peeking around a tree, he sees someone is in some serious trouble. It is a terrified girl, bruised and crying on the ground, completely helpless. Looming over her is a massive forest wolf, and she is absolutely cornered. His eyes go wide. That is not a young one, it is a fully grown adult wolf. This beast lets out a low, menacing growl, ready to tear her apart. She is screaming her lungs out, desperately hoping anyone will save her. With a vicious roar, the wolf lunges straight for her throat. It pins her down in an instant, jaws wide open for the final bite. Her face is pure terror as she sees her life flash before her eyes. Watching this unfold, our guy's expression shifts from fear to pure, unadulterated rage. He knows his gift is useless for fighting and no one else is around to help. With his fist clenched tight, he makes the only choice he can. This girl is just sobbing, desperately pleading for someone to save her. And without a second thought, our boy launches himself at the wolf, landing a solid punch. He gets knocked back hard, the impact sending him sprawling across the forest floor. Scrambling to his feet, he yells at the girl to get up and run while she still can. But she cannot move, apologizing because her leg is completely busted. His eyes widen in panic. This just went from bad to a whole lot worse. And that wolf, now royally pissed off, comes charging straight for him with murder in its eyes. It latches onto his arm with a sickening crunch, and he just screams in agony. This beast thrashing him around like a ragdoll, not letting go for a second. From the ground, the girl watches in pure horror, thinking this is the end for both of them. While its jaws just keep grinding down, threatening to snap his bone in half. A memory of his promise flashes through his mind, the dream with Polaris now slipping away. Then a single, chilling word echoes through his thoughts: devour. Pinned to the ground, he thinks this is it, that his pathetic story ends right here. But that word was not his, it was the wolf's, its hunger now an overwhelming force. And in that moment of despair, something inside our boy finally snaps. He lunges forward and sinks his own teeth into the wolf's neck, a truly inspired battle tactic. This girl just lets out a shriek, completely horrified by this turn of events, and even the wolf is stunned, letting out a yelp of pure, unadulterated confusion. He is just grinding his teeth into this thing, a mix of agony and pure feral rage. And then a system message pops up. He has somehow acquired the forest wolf's great fang. His eyes go wide with absolute shock, trying to process what the hell that even means. Because the wolf is now very, very dead on the ground, leaving them both stunned. Our boy wonders if this was his gift activating, questioning why it chose asterisk now asterisk of all times. This girl, still on the ground, asks if he is okay, which is a very generous question right now. He just stammers out a weak, "Yeah, I am fine," clearly not fine in any sense of the word. Meanwhile, the first wolf is just a corpse, bleeding out from that gnarly neck wound. But their moment of relief is cut short by a growl because its angry friend has arrived. He pulls out a tiny knife, which feels like bringing a toothpick to a gunfight. This new wolf just swats him aside like a fly, sending him tumbling through the dirt. With grit, he gets back up, still clutching that completely useless piece of metal. A second later, the knife is knocked from his hand and sticks pathetically in the ground. That attack did not even leave a scratch, confirming his knife is basically a toy here. He realizes he needs something way harder than a blade to even stand a chance. Then it clicks, he remembers the system message about acquiring the wolf's great fang. His mind is completely blown as he connects the dots, eating it gave him its power. Deciding to go for it, he activates his gift on purpose for the first time ever. A dark, monstrous energy immediately begins to swirl around his arm, shocking the wolf, and his hand transforms into a massive, razor-sharp fang ready for round two. He slams his new fang hand straight into the wolf's face with pure, unbridled fury. This impact sends the beast flying back, a brutal follow-through from our newly powered-up boy. That wolf does not even know what hit it, its eyes going blank from the sheer force. And just like that, the second monster is down for the count, leaving him panting over the corpse. His hand reverts to normal and he just stares, completely baffled that he actually won. From the sidelines, the girl he saved is watching with her jaw on the floor, utterly speechless. After a moment, he rushes over to check on her, asking if she is all right. With a tearful smile, she gives him a heartfelt thank you, which is a new experience for him. Our guy is immediately flustered, completely short-circuiting from the genuine appreciation. It hits him that this is the first time anyone has ever thanked him for being an adventurer. Despite her calling him strong, he awkwardly admits he is Essen, the guy who is always dead last. With her legs still busted, he offers to carry her out of the dangerous forest. She apologizes for the trouble, introducing herself as Yua, a rookie who just became an adventurer. Hearing she is a newbie seems to strike a chord with him for some reason. To downplay his heroics, he explains he is just a farmer's son who came here on an errand. A quick rundown of the world's logic explains different gods grant blessings for different professions. While carrying her, she notes how crazy it is that someone so strong is ranked last. Then he drops a bombshell, confessing that today was the first time he'd ever successfully used his gift. Yua is absolutely floored by this news, unable to believe what she is hearing. He finally explains his monster eater skill was not about eating monster food asterisk, it was about eating the monsters themselves. Essen clarifies that his gift only activated after he took a bite out of the wolf's tongue. Yua just stares, trying to process this absolutely wild new piece of information. She asks if that means he can copy a monster's ability by eating a specific part, and he is pretty sure that is the deal. He realizes eating cooked monster meat or even raw garbage never worked, it has to be fresh off the kill. Suddenly, the possibilities hit him and he is buzzing with the idea that his trash-tier gift could actually make him strong. His face is a perfect mix of hope and I might be a little unhinged now. But Yua cuts in, reminding him he was supposedly here on an errand before all this life-or-death drama. Essen just laughs awkwardly, admitting he got a little too excited about his newfound cannibalism powers. She looks a bit worried, probably wondering if she was saved by a hero or a future menace. Then his mood crashes and he admits that for the guy ranked dead last, this is all just a fluke. Yua clenches her fist, clearly not buying his self-pity routine for a single second. Getting his attention, she calls out his name with a new sense of purpose. She then asks for a huge favor, knowing it is a lot to ask of the guy who just saved her life. With desperation in her eyes, she begs him to help her hunt a forest cat. Essen just repeats the name, completely thrown by the sudden, very specific request. Apparently, this monster grows special medicinal mushrooms on its head, but she is too broke to post a formal quest. His brain short-circuits, realizing she is asking him to fight what is probably the forest's boss monster. But the stakes get even higher. She reveals the mushrooms are the only cure for her mother's deadly illness. Hearing this, Essen turns to look at her, the weight of her plea finally sinking in. His expression hardens because of course his day was not nearly complicated enough. But Yua just shakes her head, saying it is an impossible request and she cannot ask that of him. Essen calls her out, reminding her she is the one who brought it up in the first place. He grimaces, admitting that taking on a powerful monster is a lot to ask of a guy like him. Standing in the middle of the dangerous forest, the weight of her plea hangs in the air. Then he gently takes her hand, trying to reassure her that it is okay. With a relieved smile, she apologizes for making such an unreasonable demand. But her expression suddenly drops as a new, terrible thought seems to hit her. And she just turns and starts hobbling away, trying to leave him behind. Essen is completely stunned, having absolutely no idea what just prompted that. A memory of Polaris flashes in his mind, her voice asking if he is really okay with this choice. His resolve hardens instantly because no, he is absolutely not okay with this. He takes a firm step forward, his decision made in that split second. Meanwhile, the distance between them grows as Yua tries to go it alone. She is struggling to move with her busted leg, using a branch as a makeshift crutch. With tears in her eyes, she mutters that she has to be the one to save her mother. It is a desperate one-woman suicide mission, and she seems to know it. Suddenly, a voice cuts through her tragic monologue, calling out her name. It is Essen, pointing right at her and yelling for her to wait up. She turns around in shock as he runs over, apologizing for making her feel like she had to run. He then declares that he will take down the forest cat, even if he is not sure he can pull it off. Essen shouts that he has been making excuses for his gift, but he is done running away now. Besides, if he does not step up, the people he admires will just laugh at him anyway. Yua just stares, completely moved by his sudden burst of heroic resolve. With a pained grin, he tells Yua to find a safe spot and just wait for him. This just breaks her and she starts bawling, completely overwhelmed by his kindness. She thanks him as he heads off toward what looks like the monster's den. Finding a spot to hide, Yua wipes her eyes, putting her faith in him. From her hiding spot, she realizes Essen has to be just as scared as she is. A new resolve fills her. She has to find some way to be useful in this fight. So she takes off, determined to contribute instead of just being dead weight. She is not about to let him do all the heavy lifting on his own. Meanwhile, Essen arrives at the entrance to a very ominous-looking cave. And there it is, the forest cat with the legendary medicinal mushrooms growing right on its back. That is the prize right there, the only thing that can save you as mom. This creature itself is just lounging, looking like a fluffy, mushroom-covered agent of death. Its slitted eye snaps open, locking onto the intruder instantly. But Essen's got a confident smirk, revealing he knows this dungeon's layout by heart. After 4 years of being a nobody, he has finally got a real target in his sights. He squares up, telling the cat that it is the only thing standing between him and a higher rank. With a yell, he dives in for the first strike, knife out and ready to go. With his trusty toothpick knife, Essen goes all in for the first strike. Our boy lunges forward with everything he has got, aiming to end this quick. But his blade just cuts through empty air because the cat has completely vanished. And there it is, already behind him with a look that says, "You are adorable." In a flash of claws and fur, the monster makes its first move. Essen's eyes go wide, realizing he cannot even track its movements. This cat just zips right past him, not even bothering to land a serious hit yet. This speed difference sends him stumbling to the ground, completely outclassed. He is sweating bullets, admitting its claws are tearing up the very earth he is standing on. Gritting his teeth, he knows he has to switch up his strategy fast. This beast comes at him again, a blur of pure unadulterated speed. Then it just perches on a rock above him, practically mocking him with a little meow. Essen realizes he cannot win like this. He needs the power of a fang, not a knife. So he activates his gift, summoning that dark energy to his arm once more. But the cat just gets faster, leaving afterimages as it blitzes around the cave. He is getting furious, realizing the monster is just toying with him at this point. A sudden swipe from the cat's claws finally connects, making him cry out in pain. This attack lands square on his arm, drawing blood instantly. He is desperately trying to defend himself, but he is getting completely overwhelmed. And it hits him that calling this thing an F-rank monster is the biggest joke he has ever heard. This cat's next attack is a massive blur of claws, forcing Essen on the defensive. This impact sends him flying straight into the cave wall with bone-shattering force. Buried in rubble, he knows he needs a new strategy to even survive this beatdown. From her hiding spot, Yua realizes she has to do something about its insane speed. Suddenly, a voice calls his name, revealing she has set up some kind of trap near the entrance. Essen looks up, completely caught off guard by her sudden return to the battlefield. And there she is, hobbling right back into the middle of the danger zone. He is just screaming, asking what on earth she thinks she is doing here. Of course, this immediately draws the forest cat's attention to the new, much slower target. Her brilliant plan is to use a tiny forest rabbit as bait, hoping to be useful. With a mighty heave, she just yeets the poor, terrified bunny right at him. Essen catches it, looking absolutely baffled as he holds the dizzy little creature. Then he remembers something crucial about this specific type of monster. A forest rabbit's defining feature is its incredibly powerful leg strength. So naturally, he does the only logical thing and takes a huge bite out of its leg. Dark energy immediately surges through him as he absorbs the new monster's power. This cat lunges, thinking it has caught him during his mid-battle snack break. But a system message confirms it. He has acquired the forest rabbit's powerful leg skill. Using his new agility, Essen leaps high into the air, easily dodging the attack. He lands perfectly, giving you a heartfelt thank you for the power-up delivery service. With a surge of power, Essen knows this is his one shot to turn the tables. He is now the one blitzing around the cave, leaving the forest cat completely in the dust. In a flash, he gets behind the monster, ready to deliver the final blow. And with a feral look, he lands a devastating strike that ends the fight for good. Yua just watches from the side, her jaw on the floor at this insane turn of events. This once terrifying forest cat lies defeated as Essen stands victorious over its body, and he gives it a smug little thanks for the meal as a final, savage send-off. Overcome with relief, Yua just tackles him in a hug, screaming about how he actually did it. Our boy is completely frozen, not quite sure how to handle this sudden, enthusiastic gratitude, while she is just a mess of happy tears, apologizing for being so emotional about it all. Then she gets a sly look, asking what kind of gift he managed to snag from the cat. Essen just repeats the question, not having even processed that part of the equation yet, until he looks at his hand and realizes he has got a brand new set of steel claws. He gives them a test swing, unleashing a massive slash that tears through the cave wall, and they both just stare up at the sheer destructive power he now casually wields. Yua tearfully notes that his monster devourer gift seems incredibly hard to control, but he just waves it off, saying of course it is messy. It is his first time doing any of this. With the battle over, he carefully plucks the life-saving mushroom from the monster's back. He holds out the prize to her, the whole reason they went through this absolute nightmare. She promises to repay him, but he insists her being there was the only reason he won. Yua is just a wreck of grateful tears, her smile barely holding it together. Essen sheepishly admits his gift is a bit taboo since it is basically a monster's power. With a final, tearful promise, she swears she will never forget what he did for her. Waving it off, he tells her to stop worrying and just get home to her mom. She gives him one last thank you and a wave before heading off with the cure. After all this time at the bottom, Essen feels like he is finally on the starting line. His new goal is set to catch up to all the other adventurers out there, and a vision of Polaris in some hellscape flashes in his mind, telling her to wait for him. With a new fire in his eyes, he declares he is going to become number one. A powerful step takes him out of the cave, leaving his old self behind. Meanwhile, back in town, a couple of adventurers notice a familiar face approaching. It is Polaris, and the guys are completely stunned to see her just walking down the street. She just strolls past, looking as unbothered and powerful as ever. One of the guys freaks out, recognizing her as the famous ice princess Polaris. They are left wondering why she is already back from whatever mission she was on. Turns out she was tackling the volcano of ruin, a notoriously difficult to rank dungeon. Now she is already looking at a quest board, probably for her next impossible task. Her gaze is locked in, completely focused on the climb ahead of her. A quick look at the rankings shows she's currently sitting pretty at number 9, and she knows full well that breaking into the top tier from here will not be easy. Some adventurers are freaking out over a name that has vanished from the rankings. They are standing over a massive defeated monster, wondering how some low-rank nobody pulled this off. A new smug-looking guy pops up, explaining there are only 2 ways to get delisted. Polaris finishes his thought with ice in her veins, either you quit or you die. This guy Wellness just waves her off, saying this whole situation is beneath them. Then he gets way too close, trying to hit on her while insulting her company real smooth. Polaris just shuts him down with a look that could freeze lava. He keeps pushing his luck, bragging about his rank and how she should team up with him. She notes his tough physique, but the tone is anything but a compliment, and then she just drops the hammer, because you are weaker than me. Wellness is absolutely stunned by the rejection, sputtering about his battle maniac gift. His eyes go wide with rage, clearly not used to being told no. But Polaris has already turned her back, completely dismissing his little tantrum. Suddenly, something clicks in her mind and she stops dead in her tracks. She whips around to look at the official adventure ranking board. Her eyes scan the list, her expression shifting to one of pure shock, because she realizes the name that is missing from the board is Essen's. This reality hits her hard as she stares at the endless list of names without him. A memory flashes of a battered but determined Essen, and she knows he'd never just quit, which leaves only one other possibility, and the horror is written all over her face. A flashback hits her of his rock-bottom rank, number 90,000, dead last. Her eyes widen in pure, unadulterated panic as the horrible truth sinks in. Without another word, Polaris just bolts, leaving that sleazeball Wellness in the dust. She is a blur of motion, sprinting through the streets with a desperate look on her face. Meanwhile, Essen is back at the guild, staring at the very same ranking board with a new fire. He is absolutely buzzing, fist pumping in the middle of a crowd of unimpressed adventurers. 2 of the guys, a bald one and another with a ponytail, wonder what has gotten into him. Our boy explains to a skeptical woman that he is not being a weirdo, his rank just went up. This ponytail guy points, completely baffled that this F-rank scrub is actually celebrating something. With maximum smugness, Essen just shrugs it off, saying he just beat a few monsters, no biggie. He sheepishly admits he has only passed inactive adventurers, so he is still basically last place. This woman he was talking to just stomps off to a corner to sulk about his noise. Ponytail guy warns him that his reputation as a loser will not just vanish overnight though. Essen just grins, saying he is well aware of that, he is not getting ahead of himself. This guy seems to appreciate the honesty, telling him thanks for not being a jerk about it. A rare smile from the dude shows a flicker of respect for our boy's attitude. Walking with his new acquaintance, Essen explains his gift means he needs specific dungeons to grind. So he heads to the guild counter where a receptionist named Elle greets him with a smile. He awkwardly asks for a recommendation for an E-rank dungeon, trying to sound like a pro. She happily agrees to help, completely oblivious to his internal monologue about how cute she is. Our boy is just lost in his own little world, thinking about how nice she smells. Elle snaps him back to reality, confirming his name while he was busy being a weirdo. Busted, he just confirms his identity, probably wondering how obvious his staring was. With a bright smile, she tells him his name is actually pretty famous among the lower-ranked guilds. Essen just laughs it off, completely aware of his rock-bottom reputation. Then she gets this encouraging look, saying she saw the rankings and his hard work finally paid off. Our boy is just a little flustered, clearly not used to getting actual positive reinforcement. He is gushing with thanks, calling her amazing while she is just trying to do her job. But she gives him a serious warning: getting cocky is the fastest way to get yourself killed. He gives her a confident smile, promising to keep her very sound advice in mind. Her gentle expression shows she is genuinely rooting for this former dead last adventurer. With that settled, she gets right down to business, pulling out a bunch of dungeon files. These files show a few different options, complete with some charmingly drawn monster portraits. First up is the Tomb of Repose, a classic starter zone full of slow, easy-to-kill undead. Another choice is the Underground Path, a popular spot where you might find some leftover relics. There is also the Cave of False Worship, which has rare materials but is a total nightmare to solo. Essen immediately rules out the undead, cannot eat bones, and wants to avoid popular spots. He specifies that he'd actually prefer a less popular dungeon, leaving Elle to ponder the options. A light bulb goes off and she pulls out one more file, suggesting a different location. Her final suggestion is the misty wetlands, which looks about as cheerful as a tax audit. Elle explains the materials there sell for a ton since there is almost no competition. That is all Essen needs to hear, a greedy little glint forming in his eye. With a huge grin, he slams the file down and declares he has made his choice. She is happy to help, offering him some extra info for the road. Our boy gives Elle a final thank you before heading out on his new adventure, and she sends him off with a super sweet smile, wishing him good luck. A shimmering portal marks the entrance to his first real solo grind session. He takes his first step into the E-rank dungeon, ready for anything, or so he thinks, giving a confident little salute to an audience of 0, and he arrives in the misty wetlands, which looks exactly as miserable as it sounds. Essen immediately realizes why this place might be a little unpopular. Something small and unpleasant makes a splash in the murky water nearby, which causes our boy to totally freak out as he stumbles into the muck. He pulls his foot out to find a leech on it, finally understanding the unpopular part, but then his attention is caught by something glowing in the distance. A whole field of weird, lotus-like plants he has never seen before. Pulling out the magic bag he got from the forest cat parts, he gets ready to harvest everything. With a determined look, he starts gathering up all the valuable new materials, until something suddenly latches onto his arm, stopping him cold. It is a tiny, grumpy-looking frog monster, and it does not look happy he is touching its stuff. This tiny aggressor is a wetland frog, and apparently it has got a lot to say. He knows it is poisonous, but since it is the weakest thing here, his hand just morphs into a blade. With one clean swipe, he dices the little monster without a second thought. And just like that, the angry little amphibian is officially in 2 pieces. But as he turns to leave, the bisected frog tells him to wait, which is not supposed to happen. Suddenly, he is sent flying backwards by some kind of invisible force from the dying monster. Looking at the frog guts on his hand, he figures it is a good time to expand his gifts menu, so he just licks the remains right off his hand, because of course he does. A system notification immediately confirms he has acquired the wetland frog's tongue skill. Our boy looks way too pleased with himself, thanking the dead frog for the meal. But then his smug satisfaction vanishes as he suddenly clutches his throat. His face twists into pure, unadulterated panic as something goes horribly wrong. He is in absolute agony, clawing at his neck as the poison kicks in. It feels like his entire throat is on fire, a nasty surprise from his little snack. This pain is so intense that he just collapses onto the muddy ground. Down on his knees, he realizes with horror that he cannot even breathe. In a desperate scramble, he fumbles for a vial of antidote he brought along. Not wasting a single second, he chugs the entire potion down. Gasping for air, he realizes his monster devourer gift cannot neutralize poison that was way too close. Staring at his hand, he gets a harsh reality check. His power is not omnipotent after all. Humbled and recovering, Essen admits to himself that Elle's warning about cockiness was dead on. But a wild grin takes over his face, so this is the real danger of an E-rank dungeon. At that moment, a disturbance in the murky water signals a new monster's approach. A hulking wetland lizard emerges from the swamp, looking less than friendly. Its webbed claw slaps the mud as it pulls its massive body onto the shore. Checking the intel Elle gave him, he confirms he is looking for a powerful ability to steal. But with no antidote left, he knows he cannot afford to fight anything too strong or venomous. His eyes narrow, scanning the desolate landscape for the perfect, non-lethal target, and in the distance he spots a whole pack of the lizards just chilling by the water. Without hesitation, our boy charges forward, hoping for a useful, non-poisonous skill upgrade. He decides to launch a preemptive strike on one of them, aiming for a quick, clean win. But the creature's eye snaps open with a glint. It has already spotted him. Time for a field test as Essen decides to use that brand new frog tongue skill he just acquired. A ridiculously long tongue whips out of his mouth, shooting straight for the lizard. This monster gets completely mummified by the tongue, its face a mask of pure confusion. With a powerful yank, the lizard is violently pulled off its feet and into the air. It goes flying, crashing headfirst into a dead tree with a bone-rattling thud. Even Essen seems a little surprised by the sheer force of his new party trick. This lizard, however, just shakes its head, dazed but very much still in the fight. A bead of sweat drips down his face as he realizes its hide is way tougher than he expected. This enraged lizard charges right at him, clearly not a fan of that tree-smashing trick. Essen ducks under a vicious swipe, the lizard's claws just grazing past his head. That dodge sends him tumbling to the ground, leaving him totally vulnerable for a moment. Oh great, now its friend is here and they both look like they want a piece of him. He realizes he will have to use his teeth if he wants to get through that tough hide. With no other options, he just lunges and sinks his teeth right into the lizard's tail. A system notification pops up confirming he has acquired the wetland lizard's tail blade skill. A massive bladed tail immediately erupts from his back, whipping around with deadly force. With his new tail, claws, and fangs, Essen is looking a whole lot more intimidating. His new look does not impress the other lizards, who are all hissing and ready to pounce. Essen just smirks, telling the pack their tails will sell for a high price and he plans to collect. Taking the bait, one of the lizards lunges straight down at him, jaws agape. Instead of dodging, Essen charges forward, meeting the monster's lunge with his own momentum. Launching himself into the air, he closes the distance in an instant, ready to strike. This battlefield erupts into chaos as he weaves between multiple attacking lizards at once. A wild grin spreads across his face. He is actually having the time of his life. He can feel it now. Every monster he devours makes him physically stronger, fueling his growth. Putting the new appendage to work, he whips his bladed tail in a vicious, sweeping arc. It is brutally effective, slicing clean through two of the monsters in one devastating swing. And he is not done, following up with a brutal punch that sends another lizard flying. This last lizard lets out a pathetic gurgle as it goes down for the count. His new bladed tail just whips through the air with terrifying speed, catching another monster completely off guard with the follow-up attack. He leaps onto the back of the final one, pinning it to the ground, and with his claws fully extended, he prepares to finish the job. A brutal slash to the head ends the fight instantly, no mercy here. With cold focus, he is already scanning the now empty battlefield, leaving behind nothing but a mess of monster parts and swamp water. And just like that, the entire pack is wiped out, a total slaughter. Our boy is absolutely ecstatic, celebrating his first real solo victory. Deciding that is enough carnage for one day, it is time to cash in. This haul is even better than he expected, with tons of materials and even some eggs. So as dusk settles, he makes his way back to the city, loot in tow. Back in civilization, he is walking with a whole new swagger, when a memory of his sister's happy face flashes through his mind, reminding him why he is doing all this, to provide for her. But then he notices a slight draft, realizing his pants did not survive the fight, because his new tail skill apparently ripped a giant hole right in the seat. Whoops. Mortified, he makes a mad dash for the nearest clothing shop, trying to hide his shame, just praying he does not run into anyone he knows while he is, overexposed. But just as he is about to escape, a familiar voice calls his name. It is Polaris. Essen's blood runs completely cold, realizing he has been caught with his pants literally down. And there she is, the high-ranking adventurer from his old party, wondering what he is doing here. She congratulates him, looking way too smug about catching him in this state. Turns out she noticed his adventurer rank shot up after his little solo trip. Our boy is just a mess of pure, unadulterated panic, completely lost for words. He is so mortified he can barely even breathe, which is honestly just sad to watch. She tells him his hard work must be paying off, totally oblivious to his wardrobe malfunction. This is super weird since a top-tier adventurer like her has zero reason to be in the slums. Essen just stares, trying to figure out why on earth she's even talking to him. He is actually annoyed she is still keeping tabs on him when he thought she'd forgotten he existed. This whole situation just makes him feel absolutely pathetic, and he cannot hide it. Unable to take the shame, he just covers his face, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. Then Polaris drops a bombshell, offering him a spot in her party now that he can fight. But Essen immediately shuts her down, flat out refusing the invitation. He admits that teaming up with her would be an easy ticket to a higher rank though. Polaris is clearly not used to being told no, and her face says it all. With his hand outstretched, he declares that is not the kind of adventurer he wants to become. He vows to climb the ranks on his own, fueled by nothing but his own stubborn pride. And that declaration earns him a small, intrigued smirk. Looks like she is into it. He calls her out for being selfish, noting that some things clearly never change. A quick flashback reminds him of her old party, the very same one that left him behind. He remembers being on the ground as they all just walked away without a second glance. But Polaris just stares back, calmly telling him that she will be waiting for him. In fact, she looks absolutely thrilled, promising to wait until he is strong enough to stand beside her. Essen just gives a dismissive wave and walks off, still trying to hide his exposed backside. And she just watches him go, that intrigued little smile never leaving her face. With a whoosh, he makes his hasty escape before she can notice his wardrobe failure. He glances back one last time, a confident smirk now plastered on his face. Back in the slums, he stares at another dungeon gate, the reality of his grind setting back in. But our boy is totally fired up, already getting hyped for his next dive tomorrow. Lost in his own world, he accidentally bumps right into someone and quickly apologizes, only to look up at a massive dude in full plate armor who does not look amused. A heavy gauntlet immediately clamps down on his shoulder, stopping him dead in his tracks. And of course, it is one of the jerks from Polaris's party, looking down on him with total contempt. Cutting away from that awkward reunion, Essen finally makes it to a clothing store. He sheepishly asks the shopkeeper for one pair of pants because priorities. Elsewhere, a massive lion-like beast roars, ready to tear its opponent to shreds. And its opponent is Polaris, effortlessly blocking a savage attack with some kind of energy shield. She counters with a powerful ice spell, showing the massive gap in power between them. That massive lion beast gets absolutely blasted by a wave of ice. Her magic just tears right through it, no contest whatsoever. It lets out a pained roar, getting totally engulfed by the freezing assault. Polaris unleashes her icicle lance, a massive spear of pure ice, which skewers the poor beast, freezing it solid on the spot. Through it all, she barely even breaks a sweat just watching calmly. A slight turn of her head shows she is already scanning for the next threat. Suddenly, another attack comes flying at her with incredible speed, but she just gracefully sidesteps as the ground shatters behind her. Her eyes lock onto the next target, some kind of massive lightning worm. And this thing looks absolutely terrifying, ready to strike at any moment. This creature lunges forward, coiling through the air for a direct attack, but Polaris just zips right past it, leaving a trail of destruction. She casually notes that is 20 down, with more coming from the dungeon's flood period. Her weapon at the ready, she prepares for the next wave, completely unfazed. That giant worm monster comes right back for another go, jaws wide open. With glowing eyes, she prepares to unleash a truly devastating finishing move, and the whole cavern is instantly flash frozen, a monument to her insane power. Later, she's being thanked by villagers for keeping them safe for another year. Polaris just smiles, admitting she could not care less about monster ecology. It is just a job. She just brushes off the praise, saying she will just keep on killing monsters. It is all the same to her. Then we see her standing alone in a desolate, frozen wasteland, completely isolated by her own power. Meanwhile, Essen is trying to hitch a ride on a cart, ready to leave town and start his real journey. He asks the driver for a lift to the port city, who immediately clocks him as an adventurer. A week after his run-in with Polaris, he is ready to go, having farmed a ton of new skills in the meantime. But as he peeks into the cart, he realizes he's got company for the ride. A shadowy, cloaked passenger with glowing eyes is just sitting there, which is not at all creepy. A close-up on those intense eyes reveals they're definitely not human, looking sharp and predatory, and the cloak comes off to reveal a smug-looking guy who immediately starts mocking Essen's low rank. Essen is instantly put off, wondering who this incredibly rude stranger even is. His new travel buddy just gives him a smug little smirk, clearly enjoying the tension. This guy introduces himself as Kiyasu, getting right up in Essen's personal space with a grin. Essen is having none of it, but Kiyasu keeps poking, unaware our boy is not bottom tier anymore. Our boy is just trying to figure out if this guy is simply annoying or an actual threat. Kiyasu seems to be sizing up Essen's gear, noting that it is surprisingly decent for his supposed rank. He can sense some kind of powerful aura from Essen, which definitely piques his interest. So he gets right in his face, condescendingly saying E rank is tough and they are on the same level. Then he tells Essen not to lump him in with the perpetual lowest rank, a title he reserves for others. A strange mark is visible on his chin, maybe a tattoo or something more magical, and he finishes his little speech by telling Essen to drop the lowest rank talk, peak hypocrisy. Essen finally snaps, telling this clown his name is Essen, not whatever trash he is spouting. Kiyasu just leans back, loving every second of this and calling him Pessin. What a professional troll. This guy then challenges Essen to prove he has actually got what it takes to climb the ranks. With fire in his eyes, Essen declares he does not need a reason to put this guy in his place. That fiery response just earns a smug little smirk. Kiyasu is absolutely loving this. So with the tension set, their cart continues its journey along the coast. Finally, the driver announces they have reached their destination, the port city. This two of them share a look, with Essen looking way too happy to be done with the ride. Immediately hopping out, he starts stretching, ecstatic that the long trip is over. Kiyasu just watches, mocking him for acting like a kid who has never been on a trip before, but Essen is just completely lost in his own world, beaming with excitement. Taking in the massive port city, he shouts about finally seeing the sea. For a moment, he is just content, soaking in the sights of this new place. Of course, Kiyasu ruins the moment by calling him Pessin again, and the annoyance is instant. He then drops some weird little cross-shaped trinket on the ground right by Essen's foot. Kiyasu warns him not to get too familiar, threatening to crush him before he even hits a dungeon. Essen fires back, asking who the hell he thinks he is to be looking down on him. Now wearing a weird mask, Kiyasu declares they are on different levels and he will clear the dungeon tomorrow. Our boy just thinks to himself that he has met another complete weirdo on his journey, and to blow off some steam, he starts training by the water's edge, kicking up spray. This scene opens on a rugged coastline, setting the stage for his next big grind. Essen arrives at the entrance of an E-rank dungeon, the tidal rock lair. He takes a moment to size up his new workplace, looking ready for whatever's inside. Turns out he is here on a tip from the local guild about a quiet, unpopular spot. A friendly receptionist was happy to point him toward a place perfect for solo training, and our boy is absolutely pumped, ready to farm as many new skills as he possibly can. He has taken on a simple subjugation quest, just some small fry monsters to clear out. Apparently, these unpopular dungeons get flooded with quests when monsters start to overflow. If left unchecked, all sorts of nasty creatures just spill out into the surrounding area. This overflow can quickly turn into a full-blown disaster for any nearby towns. This receptionist also mentioned the reward is pretty generous since nobody wants these jobs. His targets for today are 3 reef crabs. Sounds easy enough, right? Down by the water, he spots his first target, a crab with one giant, unsettling eyeball. This whole situation hits a little too close to home, reminding him of villages destroyed in his past. With a look of pure determination, he vows to stop that from ever happening again. So he winds up for a punch, ready to take this job seriously and get it done right. This one-eyed crab finally notices him, probably wondering what this kid's problem is. Essen lands a direct hit, smashing his fist right into the creature's tough shell, only to immediately regret it, yelling out because that thing is ridiculously hard, and the crab just stares back, completely unfazed, its shell not even scratched. Essen zips through the water, dodging and looking for an opening against the tough-shelled crab. He launches himself into the air, using the coastal rocks as a perfect springboard. A quick grimace of pain flashes across his face. That punch really stung. Landing on a higher rock, he glares down at the monster, already formulating a new plan. Our boy is absolutely losing it, screaming that this thing's defense is way too high for an E-rank monster. In response, the crab winds up a massive pincer, ready to turn him into a pancake. But Essen just smirks, thinking he is used to being underestimated. It is practically his brand at this point. Nimbly leaping between the rocks, he tells himself he is totally used to this kind of pressure. His new plan involves a shuriken, banking on the classic weak spot for shelled beasts, the soft underbelly. With a perfect throw, he nails the crab right in its giant eye, knocking it completely off balance. A wicked little grin spreads across his face as he realizes if he flips it, it is helpless. This monster starts flailing its legs in the air, totally vulnerable now that it is on its back. And Essen's first move is to rip off a leg and hold it up like a trophy, a very delicious-looking trophy. Struggling for a second at the joint, he manages to tear another one clean off with a grunt. Suddenly, the raw monster limb transforms into a perfectly cooked, sparkling piece of crab meat. A close-up reveals the juicy, steaming meat, looking like it belongs in a five-star restaurant. Essen is completely lost in culinary bliss, drooling over his unexpected mid-battle snack. His mind just fills with descriptions of the rich flavor and perfect texture, a true gourmet moment. Then reality crashes down as he realizes he is literally eating the proof of subjugation for his quest. His brain then drifts to a weirdly domestic fantasy of sharing this meal with Polaris. Priorities, my dude. Snapping back to reality, Essen yells at himself for getting lost in a food fantasy mid-quest. With renewed fire, he declares his dream is way bigger than just some restaurant ranking. Carrying his loot, he vows he will never catch up to Polaris if he keeps messing around like this. Back in the port city, our boy decides it is finally time to find a place to crash for the night. While wandering the streets, he is on the hunt for the cheapest possible in adventure life, baby. Suddenly, a delicious aroma stops him dead in his tracks, completely derailing his budget-friendly quest. A sign for a local eatery catches his eye, promising some amazing-smelling soup. He looks up at the building, the Sangote, and decides this is definitely the place. Walking right in, he politely announces his arrival, ready for a meal and maybe a room. This innkeeper greets him, asking if he is an adventurer looking to stay for about 5 days. This friendly guy quotes him a super cheap price, and Essen is just thrilled by his good luck. But his good mood evaporates as a familiar, obnoxious voice hits his ears from across the room. Some guy is bragging about being the strongest adventurer and how he is here to clear a dungeon. And of course it is Kiyasu, already charming some local kid with his dumb title. Kiyasu of the Blazing Sky. Essen's face is a perfect portrait of "Are you kidding me?" Utterly disgusted by this reunion. That smug troll immediately spots him, a wicked little grin spreading across his face. Kiyasu offers the kid a bite of his food, calling him his little underling while Essen just seethes. This kid is totally starstruck, calling Kiyasu big bro as our favorite troll soaks up the adoration. Finally having enough, Essen marches over and demands to know what the hell Kiyasu thinks he is doing. He then chews him out for feeding a kid a bunch of lies and trying to recruit him into his fan club. Kiyasu smugly boasts that anyone ranked below his 7,000th place is all the same to him. He then asks his new little fanboy for his rank, who admits he is way down at 76,000th. Turning back to Essen, he condescendingly asks if he is a perpetual bottom ranker and offers him a chance to cry, and Essen immediately bursts into cartoonish tears while Kiyasu tells him to surpass him before complaining. Our boy clenches his fist, muttering that he has been working hard and getting stronger. But Kiyasu just scoffs, claiming he has just been messing around and is not like the other low-rank idiots. He has just been underestimating his own nature, flexing a bandaged arm for good measure. This whole speech leaves Essen completely floored, sweating as he processes the threat. Kiyasu twists the knife, saying a low rank is a fair evaluation for someone with no real achievements. With that final burn, he makes a dramatic exit, leaving Essen standing there in shock. Our boy can only stare after him, completely unable to come up with a retort. Even the little kid he was mentoring looks on, totally stunned by the confrontation. Later, Essen is just lying in his room, staring at the ceiling and stewing over the whole thing. He is absolutely fuming that he could not say a single thing back to that arrogant clown. A sudden knock at the door interrupts his brooding, and he sits up to answer it. It is the kid from downstairs, Nick, who cheerfully points at him with a mop in hand. This boy introduces himself, explaining his dad runs the inn and asking for Essen's name. After they exchange names, Nick asks if he is going to help his dad with breakfast. This kid explains he is saving up his allowance to buy a sword and clear a dungeon himself, and a wave of nostalgia hits Essen as he realizes he used to be just like that. Nick is fired up, swinging his mop like a sword and vowing to surpass everyone. Essen just smiles, totally seeing his younger self in this kid's fiery ambition. This boy then declares he will not lose to some low ranker with a fancy title, a direct shot at Kiyasu. But that comment hits a little too close to home, and Essen's good mood instantly vanishes. He clenches his fist, remembering that in this world your rank is everything. It is a brutal climb where strength is just a number and he is still chasing Polaris up that ladder. Under the full moon, he swears he will surpass both Polaris and that arrogant troll Kiesu. This next morning, the port city is quiet, setting the stage for a new day of grinding. Back at the inn, Essen is trying to enjoy his breakfast when a familiar voice chimes in. He gives the innkeeper a cheerful wave, thanking him for the meal before heading out. But just as he is leaving, he spots his rival and calls out to him, Kiesu. Kiesu turns back, probably wondering what this low ranker could possibly want now. Our boy asks if they can head to the dungeon together, much to Kiesu's visible disgust. With a surprisingly genuine smile, Essen thanks him for the motivation from yesterday's roast session. He actually admits that being treated like trash is way better than being coddled. What a mindset. Kiesu just smirks, saying it is only natural for the strong to advise the weak. Oh, the ego. As they walk, Kiesu clarifies that his insults were not advice, just straight-up facts. They arrive at the dungeon to find a group of adventurers hauling out a massive covered crate. Something about this crate seems off, and one of the adventurers points at it nervously. Kiesu suddenly asks if Essen has any sleep skills, wondering if they are trying to capture something alive. Kiesu explains that fresh monsters sell for way more, especially as high-end food ingredients. Essen just listens, probably realizing there is a whole business side to this he is completely ignored. On the cliff's edge, the two rivals survey the area before splitting up for their grind. With a point, Kiesu declares they are both solo players, so it is time to go their separate ways. Our boy looks totally baffled, while Kiesu bluntly states there is zero benefit in teaming up with him. Ouch. As he walks off, Kiesu tosses a surprisingly decent "call me if you are dying" over his shoulder. That little bit of concern actually gets a small, genuine smile out of Essen. Now on his own, he gets down to the water's edge, ready to start the real work. And of course, a horrifying flower-faced sea worm immediately bursts out of the water to greet him. This creature lunges forward with incredible speed, catching our boy completely by surprise. Letting out a fierce battle cry, Essen braces himself for the incoming attack. He counters with a powerful punch, smashing his fist right into the monster's weird tooth-petal face. Then he grabs one of its appendages, ready to give this thing a lesson in physics. And it turns out he is using the giant crab pincer from before as a club, resourceful and brutal. With a mighty swing, he slams the sea worm into the ground, sending water and rock flying. Standing over his defeated foe, he casually rests the giant pincer on his shoulder, looking smug. He identifies his latest victim as a reef star, another monster for the quest log. A clear notification pops up, but before he can check his new skill, he hears something else. His face drops in shock as he recognizes the distant cry. It is Kiesu's voice. Whipping around, Essen yells out for his rival, demanding to know if he is okay and where he is. Essen rushes over, completely stunned to see Kiesu's arm is an absolute wreck. Thinking a monster got him, he asks if his rival was attacked out here. But Kiesu just turns with that infuriatingly smug grin like it is no big deal. He then points to his actual opponent, a massive charred monster floating in the water. That thing is fried to an absolute crisp, whatever the hell it used to be. Our boy is just floored, realizing his own gift could never manage that kind of brute force. As Kiesu pulls out a potion, Essen is left wondering what his rival's ability even is. This guy just casually downs the entire vial without another word, and just like that, his mangled arm completely regenerates in a flash of light. Kiesu finally reveals his gift, His Majesty the Flame, by igniting his own hand. He smugly asks if Essen is jealous, calling it a power fit only for the strongest. Essen's mind is blown, an elemental gift is super rare, which explains the dude's massive ego. You can practically hear his brain sizzling as he processes this insane power difference. As they walk, Essen asks if he gets burned every single time, but Kiesu says it is unavoidable. Our boy points out how inefficient that is with the cost of potions and recovery time. Kiesu's response is pure cringe. He calls it the destiny of the strong. This just leaves Essen confused, wondering why he'd go through all that trouble. With a serious look, Kiesu says he has already told him the reason over and over. They stand on the cliff's edge, the wind whipping through Kiesu's ridiculously dramatic cape. Before making his grand declaration, he is going to become the strongest. A vision of a ruined city flashes by, the apparent source of all this angst. Kiesu grits his teeth, declaring this is the only path he can take, pure Shounen protagonist energy. As they walk away from the cliff, the heavy atmosphere hangs between them. Essen is just trying to wrap his head around his rival's self-destructive philosophy. Kiesu admits that trading your body for power will eventually hit a hard limit, but just as Essen asks how that makes any sense, two panicked adventurers sprint past them. Our boy's eyes go wide as he realizes something is terribly wrong back in town. These fleeing guys are yelling about getting help from some church, one literally carrying his buddy to safety. Kiesu turns to ask what is up, but Essen is already frozen, staring back towards the port. Suddenly, a familiar voice cuts through the tension. It is Nick, the innkeeper's kid. This boy is sprinting towards them, looking absolutely terrified and screaming for help. He finally reaches them, panting that the entire port market is under attack. Nick frantically explains that monsters are swarming the place and it is total chaos. Essen can only stare, completely blindsided by the sudden turn of events. Kiesu, on the other hand, just looks grimly determined. His strongest moment has arrived. Without a single word, he becomes a black blur, rocketing towards the city. Nick just points after the streak of pure ego while Essen is left in the dust. This kid then grabs our boy's arm, telling him to get a move on already. This sky itself seems to ask what the hell is even going on, and they all race towards the port, which is now engulfed in smoke and mayhem. Essen is absolutely shell-shocked, his face screaming what the hell is happening. It is total pandemonium, the port market is getting torn apart and people are scrambling to escape. Nick spills the beans, those live monsters they were hauling in all broke out and are now on a rampage. And it clicks, our boy remembers the sketchy crate from this morning, the one Kiyosu pointed out. Just then a gigantic pillar of fire erupts from the center of town, a pretty clear calling card. Essen knows exactly who that is, realizing Kiyosu's already started his one-man show. This kid is practically dragging him, yelling that they need to get to the port like yesterday. They take off, weaving through the absolute mayhem of the panicked crowd. His mind races as he sprints, remembering he saw at least 10 of these things in the immediate area. Another massive fireball detonates, and Essen is already yelling for Kiyosu not to be an idiot. And there he is, right in the heart of the inferno, letting out a primal roar. Subtlety is not in his vocabulary. This guy is in his element, a look of pure destructive focus on his face. He is a literal human torch, throwing himself into the fray with zero self-preservation. His fist ignites as he drives it straight into a monster's face, classic shonen problem-solving. That look in his eye is pure, unhinged determination, fueled by a massive ego. He is already standing on a pile of smoking corpses, casually keeping a tally of his handiwork. This adrenaline is wearing off though, and he is sweating hard, realizing there is a catch. A quick check of his supplies confirms the worst. He already blew through his burn potions in the dungeon. Turns out he was just the bait, and now he is the center of a crab monster mosh pit. And these are not just any crabs, a couple of absolute units are blocking his only way out. Kiyosu's arm is literally disintegrating from the sheer force of his own power. He knows his body is at its absolute limit, but that is a problem for future Kiyosu. Gritting his teeth, he decides to push through anyway because why not, right? He winds up for another massive, fiery punch aimed straight at a giant crab monster. Unleashing his volcano shot, he puts every last bit of his shonen protagonist energy into it. This impact is absolutely brutal, sending a shockwave plowing through the street. This sends the monster flying back, but the damn thing is still standing. His attack completely shatters the pavement just for some extra dramatic effect, but the monster just takes the hit, looking more annoyed than anything else. Suddenly, a terrified scream cuts through all the noise and destruction, and Kiyosu spots a little girl cowering in the rubble, right in the monster's line of fire. He immediately plants himself in front of her, vowing to protect everyone because he is just that strong. With a look of pure conviction, he swears he will not let this town be destroyed again. He glances at his wrecked arm just as Essen and Nick finally arrive on the scene. Essen is screaming his name, completely horrified by the state his rival is in. Kiyosu just turns and calls him Pessin. Oh good, he's got a nickname for him now, how sweet. He brushes it off, saying it is no big deal since his other arm is fine, which is just peak delusion. Our boy frantically asks if he has any potions left to fix that mangled limb. Kiyosu admits he is fresh out, but you can already see the but forming in his head. And with a smug grin, he says if it were asterisk him, he could totally handle it. The ego is indestructible. Kiyosu declares that since Nick came for help, he has gotta be the one to finish this. And with that, he unleashes another massive blast, completely obliterating a nearby monster. This crab creature is sent flying back, smashed into a pile of shattered debris, but the recoil is clearly taking its toll as he is sweating bullets and barely standing. Essen grabs him, screaming that his body cannot take any more of this abuse. Kiyosu just tells him to shut up and stay out of it, insisting the weak should just hide. Having finally had enough of this nonsense, Essen just decks him right in the jaw. Our boy is absolutely fuming, demanding to know how far he is gonna take this self-destruction. Without waiting for a reply, he charges past his rival, heading straight for the main threat. Kiyosu is just completely stunned, his brain short-circuiting from the sudden punch and defiance. Essen turns back, saying he finally understands what his rival's whole deal is now. All the while, Nick and the little girl are just watching this shonen drama unfold in horror. Kiyosu tries to argue that Essen's a monster, but our boy says this is just his gift. As his legs begin to transform, he admits he gets why Kiyosu wants to protect the city alone. But then he roars that he is not about to let him die for some stupid hero complex. Taking charge, he tells Kiyosu to protect the civilians while he handles the big boss. Nick gets the message, telling the little girl they need to find the other adults and get to safety. After a quick reassurance from Essen, Nick asks if he will become a great adventurer too someday. This little girl just watches on, her fear now replaced with a look of pure awe. With the kids finally running to safety, Essen turns his full attention to the fight. Kiyosu yells for Essen not to die, saying he believes in his strongest rival, peak shonen nonsense. But our boy is already charging, leaving Kiyosu on the ground shouting for him to wait. Essen just grins back, basically telling him right back at ya as he leaps into the fray. In his transformed state, he squares up with the giant crab monster, ready for a real fight. Kiyosu is absolutely seething on the sidelines, clearly not a fan of being upstaged. With a burst of speed, Essen closes the distance, a look of pure focus on his face. He is practically flying across the rooftops, making a beeline for the oversized seafood platter. Down in the ruined streets, he weaves through the destruction without slowing down. His monster legs dig into the pavement, coiling up for a powerful launch. Already panting hard, it is clear this transformation is burning through his stamina fast. He lands right in front of the beast, staring up at the absolute unit he just challenged. This monster immediately brings a massive claw crashing down, aiming to flatten him. From the sidelines, Kiyosu grimly mutters that Essen is reaping what he sowed, pot meat kettle. That thing's single eye locks onto its target with cold, unblinking focus. Essen dodges just in time, finding himself running alongside a female adventurer who is also in the fight. This new woman glances back, her face a mix of surprise and concern. Our boy, ever the gentleman, immediately asks if she is okay amid all the chaos. She is holding a potion, either offering it to him or just getting ready for the next phase. Now they are running together as she leads him away from a collapsing building. Kiyosu watches this whole team-up unfold, gritting his teeth and vowing he is not done yet. And we flash back to this new adventurer's past, a moment of absolute desperation, where a monster gets completely obliterated right in front of her, revealing her unique gift in action, the ability to pacify monsters, which she uses to put a wolf-like creature completely out of commission. Her partner at the time is completely blown away by this power, calling her gift incredible as the monster just snoozes on the ground. This ponytail adventurer explains it is a safe way for even rookies to handle threats, but her lightning-wielding partner boasts that her own gift is getting stronger too. Then with a smug look, the partner suggests they just break up the party, leaving our girl stunned, realizing her sleep ability is becoming less useful at higher ranks. Her so-called friend basically says it is faster to just kill things than wait for her to do her thing, so she ends up alone, feeling like she was just leeching off everyone else's strength. Trying to join another party, she finds they are hesitant since she has zero combat experience. This rejection clearly hits her hard, leaving her totally dejected, until some shady-looking adventurer approaches her with an offer about her interesting gift. A guy with a foolproof money-making plan who wants to recruit her. Total red flag, and she totally falls for it, thrilled at the idea of a job only asterisk she can do. This plan, of course, immediately goes sideways as blood splatters across her face, because her new teammates start beating the ever-loving crap out of someone. And it is her old partner who is now getting stomped while she can only watch in horror. This lead thug looms over them, his silhouette screaming, "You made a terrible life choice." Blood sprays across her face as she shields herself from the brutal beatdown, and she can only cower and apologize while her old partner gets absolutely destroyed. We snap back to the present with Essen's eyes widening in sudden alarm. He yanks her out of the way just as a monster's attack smashes the ground. Looking down at the severed monster tail he just created to save her, this ponytail adventurer is completely overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face from the close call, and Essen finally gets a moment to ask who the hell she even is. It suddenly clicks, he realizes she is with the shady crew that unleashed all these monsters. She completely breaks down, sobbing that this is all her fault because her gift is too weak. Our boy immediately pivots, asking if her gift is the one that can incapacitate monsters. Without waiting for an answer, he stomps forward to draw a monster's attention, landing a solid kick right in the creature's giant eyeball, a classic monster weak spot. Essen tells her to cut the apologies because they are a little busy for a therapy session. On the ground, one of the smaller crab monsters is totally knocked out, drooling peacefully. He urgently asks if she can use her power on the other ones, like right now. Another kick sends a monster flying as he yells that his companion is in trouble, but she just stares back in terror, admitting that she cannot do it again. He is furious, demanding to know why she is hesitating when they are about to be flattened. She confesses she was just so happy to be needed that she did not think things through. Essen's brain is working overtime, connecting her sob story to the citywide disaster unfolding around them. He remembers she was recruited by those two shady-looking goons who were way too interested in her gift. But he shoves that thought aside, no time for backstory, he has got to deal with the immediate crisis. With a new plan, he tells her to get his rival Kiyosu to safety while he handles the rest. And just as he says that, the ground absolutely erupts in front of them. His eyes go wide with a classic "oh, we are so screwed" expression as the real threat appears, because a massive reef serpent bursts from the pavement, making the crab monster look like a pet. This thing is a colossal armored worm, and it does not look friendly in the slightest. Its single, unblinking eye stares down, radiating pure "I am about to eat you" energy. Essen immediately recognizes it as one of the most voracious monsters in existence, just fantastic. He realizes this level of citywide destruction finally makes sense now that the main course has arrived. Meanwhile, his new partner is having a complete meltdown, babbling about how tasty it'll be grilled. Essen just points, completely baffled, asking how they are supposed to cook that thing. Priorities, my dude. This serpent, not a fan of culinary discussions, smashes down to interrupt their little chat. Our boy yanks her out of the way just as the monster's head pulverizes the ground they were on. They tumble through the debris, barely dodging the creature's massive whipping tail. Now the beast looms over them, wreathed in a dark aura and ready for another strike. Essen holds her tight, his face grim as he realizes just how outmatched they are. He knows there is no way he can escape to the rooftops while carrying her with his transformed legs. So with the serpent staring them down, he decides he has no choice but to stop it right here. Essen gets right in her face, screaming at her to snap out of it and listen. She just stammers back, completely paralyzed with fear and barely able to speak. He tells her he will be the decoy for the giant worm so she can make a run for it. Of course, she immediately protests because that is a one-way ticket to getting eaten. Our boy just looks back, completely baffled that she is arguing with him right now. It is then she finally explains her gift's downside. Her sleep spell also acts as a giant eat me sign. Apparently other adventurers were holding the line, but she got separated and chased by everything. Kisu's big flashy attacks drew the aggro away, but now he is gone, so she is the main course again. Her logic is if they can just take down this reef serpent, Kisu can handle the small fry. And the serpent confirms this by staring her down, totally ignoring Essen for the easier meal. Essen's face is pure grim resolve as this new, absolutely terrible information sinks in. So with a new plan, he just tells her to keep running no matter what happens next. And by run, he means he literally asterisk yeets her through the air, problem solved, I guess. This guy just chucks her across the battlefield like a sack of potatoes, aiming for a rooftop. She is screaming for him not to leave her behind, a fair complaint when you have just been thrown. But our boy is already in motion, leaping into the air to face the serpent alone. He lands with a crash, yelling at her to stay down and out of the way. She can only cower as he lands, probably rethinking all of her recent life choices. With the opening he needed, Essen unleashes a new move, Forest Cat's Iron Claw. His eyes are blazing with focus as he prepares to strike the beast head-on. His Iron Claw attack slams right into the serpent's face with a deafening crash. On the ground, the ponytail adventurer braces for impact, completely helpless, as the reef serpent's massive maw opens up to swallow her whole. Its head comes smashing down, ready to turn her into a permanent street decoration, pulverizing the pavement with enough force to level a building, and a huge spray of dark fluid erupts from the point of impact. Miraculously, she is still alive, now trapped between the monster's jaws, looking up in total disbelief and wondering how she was not just flattened. High above, a lone figure stands on the serpent's head, holding it back. It is Essen, literally prying the monster's mouth open with his bare hands. He casually mentions the plan worked, though he is bummed he did not get a new skill from it. Having done his part, he gets launched into the air, his job as a decoy complete. Landing amidst the smaller crabs and telling her he is sorry but he has gotta bounce. Then asks her to keep his gift a secret since it could cause a huge incident. With one last intense look, he grabs her by the collar for a little extra emphasis, before bolting off into the ruined city, leaving her to handle the rest. She is just left there, completely stunned by this whirlwind of a rescue, staring at the empty space where her impromptu partner just was. But the ground starts to rumble and crack again because of course it does. Even one of the little crab monsters is shedding a tear, probably from sheer stress. One of the shady goons drops a coin, a tiny sound in all the chaos, and even the little crab monster looks up, suddenly very, very nervous, because the thug realizes he is about to be the last one standing against a new threat. It is Kiyosu, who has just gone full-on Super Saiyan, erupting in a massive fiery aura. He unleashes a wave of pure destruction, clearing out all the small fry monsters in the area, though this power-up is clearly taking a massive toll on him as sweat pours down his face. With a roar, he slams his hand down, ready to turn the pavement into a parking lot, and a huge explosion of energy rips through the street, obliterating everything in its path. His face is pure focus as he channels every last bit of his power into the attack. The shockwave just continuing to expand, a testament to how much he is overdoing it. He stands in the aftermath, taking a moment to admire his handiwork, leaving the entire area a smoking wasteland, completely clear of monsters, mission accomplished right. Then he spots the ponytail adventurer up on a rooftop safe and sound, who calls down to him, relieved to see he has handled the cleanup crew. But Kiyosu realizes the flames engulfing him are not going out. This is not part of the plan. His face twists in panic as he realizes his own power is completely out of control, and he stumbles backward, losing his balance on the ledge in a truly graceful moment, before tumbling right into the canal below with a huge splash. In the water, he immediately finds Essen and boasts that he took care of all the monsters, while Essen just grips the edge of the canal, clearly having none of this conversation. Kiyosu immediately tries to start another fight, tackling Essen in the canal water. And they just flail around like a couple of angry, soaked toddlers, with Kiyosu trying to look tough while clearly running on fumes after his big attack, while Essen, completely submerged, tells him to just shut up for 5 seconds. His rival's brilliant response is to declare that he is the strongest. Priorities, man, priorities. Our boy just stares up, absolutely baffled by the level of ego he is currently drowning under. Then a tiny, evil smirk crosses his face as he gets an idea. And with a quick flip, he dunks Kiyosu head first, sarcastically praising his great work. Back on the pavement, Essen asks if the city is finally safe now that he is back, but Kiyosu admits he got delayed fighting the reef serpent and its crab army, and he is stunned that Essen managed to defeat the giant worm without a single scratch. Essen just casually asks if his big wall of fire was not enough to handle things. So Kiyosu, completely missing the sarcasm, decides to do another patrol just in case. Before he can go anywhere, Essen grabs him, insisting he is going to a clinic first, then proceeds to drag him through the rubble while mocking his "I am the strongest" routine. Later that night, Essen is back at an inn, looking completely wiped out while doing paperwork, and the day's insanity finally catches up as he collapses face first onto his bed. This next morning, he heads out, trying to remember the way to the clinic, but he is stopped by a mysterious woman in an ornate white cloak, who greets him with a knowing smile, asking if he is in fact Essen. Essen warily confirms his identity, clearly not thrilled about this random, smiling stranger. This woman introduces herself as Felsi, absolutely beaming that she found the right guy. She explains she is a priestess from the Ryujin church and wants to discuss yesterday's incident. Her fancy boots and official-looking getup just scream, "I am part of a powerful organization." Our boy is already sizing her up, his expression pure suspicion as he repeats her name. Ignoring his "please go away" vibe, she asks if he has a moment to talk. Essen nervously agrees because what else are you supposed to say to a pushy priestess? Internally, he is freaking out. He knew the church would get involved and he needs to hide his gift. Felsi is just delighted by his cooperation, acting like they are about to go on a lovely stroll. As they walk, Essen grimly concludes she is way more dangerous than any monster he just fought. This scene cuts to the ponytail adventurer absolutely demolishing a feast while Kiyosu trains behind her. An ominous church appears, revealing this group is in charge of managing all gifted adventurers. Apparently, their organization is split into two major roles, which sounds super official and not at all scary. Their first job is to grant blessings or gifts to followers when they come of age. This second job, however, is to punish anyone who defies the church's teachings. Yikes. So if an adventurer causes a monster incident, the priests themselves become the investigators. And what do you know, the recent citywide disaster is a textbook case for them to handle. Back in the present, Essen's anxiety makes sense. The more zealous the church, the more he needs to avoid them. His core belief is simple: gifts exist for the sole purpose of defeating monsters, which is why he knows this church would never, ever tolerate his own monstrous existence. He is internally monologuing that his gift lets him partially become a monster, a secret that would get him purged. With a deeply unsettling smile, Felsi ushers him into an office for their little chat. Inside, she tells him to hang on for a second, leaving Essen totally confused by the whole setup. At the table, he nervously starts to talk about the incident, trying to control the narrative. He even mentions he has already seen the investigation team's records to get ahead of her questions. And then out of absolutely nowhere, a massive feast just materializes on the table. Our boy is just left staring, completely dumbfounded by this sudden five-star meal. She casually starts eating, calling him Essen the hero who saved the city, which only makes him more tense. With literal stars in her eyes, she just keeps eating while he asks why they are having breakfast now. She then clarifies that she is not sharing any of it, which is just a peak interrogation tactic. His face is a perfect mask of "I am so done with this entire situation." But then his expression hardens as he decides on a strategy to handle this weirdo. He tries to deflect all the praise, insisting Kiyosu was the real hero and he just played a small part. Claiming he has got somewhere else to be, he asks if they can please wrap this up quickly. Felsi just gives him a little "I see" with a smile that says she knows exactly what he is doing. Then she makes two okay signs, saying she will overlook some irregularities as a bonus for their help. He is genuinely shocked, asking if she is for real. This seems way too easy. Felsi just gives him this tiny, smug smile, enjoying his relief a little too much. Then she leans forward, her friendly act dropping as she wonders aloud where to begin the real questioning. And Essen's blood runs cold as she says his story matches the report perfectly. He has been completely played. She maintains her sweet as pie act, insisting it is important to hear things directly from him. Our boy lays out his alibi, saying he missed the monster outbreak while returning from the dungeon. She casually confirms his story while digging into her meal, so he was not in town then, and the smile she gives him is just pure predator. She is enjoying this way too much. But then she pivots, asking how he recognized the culprit's face if he was not there. He tries to cover, saying he just passed one of the thugs near the dungeon entrance. When she asks if he found the culprit, he just says it is a secret, which clearly annoys her. So she just casually drops that the hypnotist girl is under house arrest in a villa somewhere. Twirling her fork, she mentions how rare it is for a culprit to just turn themselves in. A flash of concern crosses his face as he asks what is going to happen to the girl. With a chillingly casual tone, she declares the girl will be executed, no question about it. That answer just floors him, the shock written all over his face. Taking a sip from her cup, she adds that they will also just take her gift away. This kid is just reeling, completely stunned by the church's absolute power. Apparently, the church's authority is absolute. A priest's judgment can strip a gift or hand down a death sentence. She clarifies that while everyone involved is guilty, the girl's failure to control her power makes her the biggest criminal. Looking thoroughly annoyed, Essen points out that he already covered all of this in his report. But Felsi reveals the girl's gift has a demerit that attracts monsters, and she ran away from the evacuation route. She then concedes that, ironically, the girl's actions also helped contain the damage in the end. And through it all, Felsi just keeps that same smug, all-knowing smile on her face. She then asks a loaded question: would not his reputation soar if he defeated the monsters she summoned? That question hits him like a truck, and the poor guy is just completely blindsided. Our boy is left completely speechless, the implication finally sinking in. She knows. With the interrogation now over, Felsi just sits there, having completely dismantled his story. Having finished her 5-star meal, she is ready to wrap things up, interrogation and breakfast complete. Looking out the window, she casually mentions that she has got the gist of the situation now. He tries to play it off, muttering that as long as he was useful, that is good enough for him. She puts on her sweet face again, saying how lucky it was that both he and Kiyosu were in town. Then she gives this super formal bow, thanking him on behalf of the church, a masterclass in manipulation. Our boy is just completely flustered, stammering a response to her over-the-top gratitude. Just as he is about to make his escape, she stops him with a simple "oh, one more thing." Then she drops the real bombshell, asking if he knows anything about a human who can mimic a monster's form. His heart just plummets. She is not asking a random question, she is asking about asterisk him. For a long moment he just stands there, completely frozen by her question. She calls his name with that same sweet smile, the predator toying with its prey. Putting on the fakest smile of his life, he insists he has never heard of such a thing. He quickly adds that with all the chaos, it was probably just a case of mistaken identity. Felsi just beams, saying, "Oh, is that so?" while clearly not believing a single word. Then her entire demeanor shifts, her face twisting into a horrifying grin as she asks, "What if a monster was pretending to be human?" And as sweat pours down his face, she adds that such a creature would need to be disposed of. Essen's still sweating buckets, forcing a smile that just screams, "I am not okay right now." Felsi just beams, apologizing for keeping him, like she did not just threaten to have him executed. As he walks away, she cheerfully hopes they will meet again, which is the absolute last thing he wants. Finally, outside, our boy just tries to walk off the sheer terror of that friendly chat, and the second he is clear, the delayed panic hits him like a freight train. He makes a run for it, vowing to never, ever cross paths with that terrifying woman again. Eventually making his way to the clinic he was looking for in the first place. It is a quiet, rustic-looking building, a total contrast to the psycho-interrogation he just escaped, and inside we find Kiyosu, the strongest adventurer, wrapped up like a literal mummy. Essen peeks into the room, a little surprised to see his rival in such a sorry state, and as he enters, he sees two kids visiting the bandaged hero, one of whom recognizes him. This little girl is just relieved to see he is safe after all the chaos from yesterday, and they explain the doctor fixed Kiyosu's injuries, so now he just needs to rest and heal. Our boy is genuinely relieved, musing that doctors have their own kind of gift for saving lives, but his thoughts are interrupted by a muffled mumbling sound coming from the bed. It is Kiyosu trying to talk through his bandages, which just comes out as garbled, angry noises. His bandaged hand even twitches, desperately trying to make a point he cannot actually voice. So the kids tell him to stop, worried his mummy look will give them nightmares. Brutal. This little boy, however, gets right in his face, completely starstruck by the injured hero, and with total hero worship he declares that Kiyosu was, is, and always will be the coolest. This little boy enthusiastically agrees with the girl, who has got a sweet smile on her face. With stars in her eyes, she asks if she can grow up to be a cool adventurer just like him. From his bed, the mummified Kiyosu is listening in, his one visible eye wide with thought. He is internally grumbling about that weirdo, clearly referring to our boy Essen. After their little chat, the two kids share a wholesome, happy moment together. Waving goodbye, they announce they have gotta go help out at their family's shop. Essen watches them go with a genuinely warm smile, a rare moment of peace for him. Turning to Kiyosu, he muses that those two will definitely become great adventurers someday. But Kiyosu flashes back to seeing Essen's true power, knowing he is destined for something huge. Through his bandages, his eyes blaze with a sudden, intense understanding of the situation. Our boy just gives a friendly grin, completely unaware of the existential crisis happening in the bed next to him. Under the covers, Kiyosu's bandaged hands start to move with purpose, and he clenches his fist, a silent declaration of his renewed rivalry. Essen, still smiling, then mentions that he actually has a favor to ask of him. His eyes narrow just a bit, signaling a shift from friendly chat to serious business. He then asks if Kiyosu is feeling alright, a hilarious question to ask a literal mummy. From behind, Kiyosu declares that his condition is absolutely perfect, thank you very much. With pure bravado, he asks who Essen thinks he is talking to. He is the strongest, after all. And with a massive burst of energy, he apparently just shreds all his bandages off in one go. Now free, they are running side by side, Essen telling him to leave it to him. The team-up is on. Running at full speed, Essen lays out the plan for their little team-up. Their target is a massive reef shrimp bursting from the water, a real charmer. Kiyosu is right there with him, his game face absolutely locked in. And together they charge headfirst as the beast makes its grand, splashy entrance. He shouts Essen's name, watching our boy literally sprint across the water's surface, which all started with that one simple favor he asked back in the clinic. Essen standing over Kiyosu, who is still a full-body mummy, asking for help, and he can barely stop himself from laughing at the sheer audacity of the request. After composing himself, he asks what this so-called favor is all about. While Kiyosu, from inside his fabric prison, actually gives it some thought, then agrees, admitting that Essen's help would be invaluable. This favor, it turns out, is a monster subjugation quest, because of course it is. He explains they are going after the strongest monster in the tide-worn grotto, and that little tidbit of information makes Kiyosu jolt upright in bed. This guy literally grabs Essen's leg, looking like he is about to have a breakdown. Mumbling and struggling to get the words out through his bandages, before finally admitting the brutal truth, he is weak. Turns out his gift is so powerful that his own body cannot even handle the backlash. On top of that, the dungeon is surrounded by water, giving him the worst possible disadvantage, which is why he has been avoiding this specific challenge for years until today. Essen's a little thrown, admitting he never expected such a confession from the guy who went so hard yesterday. Kiyosu just stares back, his gaze intense even through the layers of bandages. From his fabric tomb, he begins to explain his reasoning, revealing the recent monster attack reminded him of his own hometown's destruction. That revelation immediately sobers Essen up, the mood shifting completely. Kiyosu clarifies this was not a deliberate attack by some villain, but a natural monster flood, the same kind that completely wiped out his village. He apologizes for the heavy story, but Essen just waves it off, telling him it is fine. Kiesu then adds a crucial detail: while his village was destroyed, not a single person actually died, all thanks to one hero. A small, knowing smile appears on Essen's face as he listens. In the flashback, that lone adventurer held the line while all the others retreated for backup. He chose to protect the lives right in front of him, all by himself. And a young, awestruck Kiesu saw the whole thing, his future forged right there. Back in the present, he smiles, declaring that is what it truly means to be the strongest. Essen just grins back, totally on the same page with him. That is why Kiesu needs to get stronger, and to do that, he needs to beat the reef shrimp. This name of that monster makes Essen's eyes widen in surprise, because the reward for that quest is the blessing of the water spirit from the guild. A special protection that grants fire resistance, the perfect fix for his backlash problem. Essen grins, saying this quest and its reward are practically made for him. Through his bandages, Kiesu gives a rare, genuine smile. He is totally in. Of course, the mummy man immediately gets ticked off by Essen's smug attitude, but then he gets serious, asking why Essen would even need his help for this. He just says he saw the same conviction in Kiesu that he sees in himself, a true hero's spirit. Back in the grotto, Essen faces down a massive claw slam from the reef shrimp. This impact sends a shockwave of rock and water exploding outwards. This thing hits hard. Our boy nimbly dodges through the flying debris, completely unfazed by the chaos. He lands with a smirk, impressed that something so huge can move so fast. Running across the water, he yells at Kiesu to pick up the pace, complaining about their bad footing. Kiesu fires back, roaring that as long as Essen does not screw up, they have got this. Standing on the water, Essen taunts the giant shrimp, looking way too pleased with himself, and the monster takes the bait, lunging forward with a massive surge of water. It creates a tidal wave as it charges, with both guys flanking its path. Essen looks back with a confident grin, some kind of goo already on his face. His part of the plan, he declares, is officially complete. This shrimp is now airborne, soaring right over the spot where Essen was just standing. From the water below, Essen summons a massive, sharp spike ready to intercept. He drives the spike upward just as the monster passes overhead, a perfect ambush. This blade pierces its underbelly, hitting a critical spot and leaving the beast completely stunned. Essen explains the plan, admitting his quick attacks cannot actually break the shrimp's tough shell. Meanwhile, Kiesu calmly states that it takes him a while to charge up his maximum firepower. This idea is for Essen to use his speed to wear the monster's stamina down completely, and the giant shrimp is already thrashing wildly, taking the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Our boy keeps zipping around, taunting that its attacks are too straightforward to ever hit him. That nasty wound on its underbelly is still wide open, a constant drain on its energy. With a body that massive, Essen figures its stamina must be about to hit zero, but the monster just glares back, looking like it is about to pull a nasty surprise. Suddenly, a strange energy starts crackling around Essen's arm mid-sprint. He gets hit with a massive shock, leaving him completely paralyzed on the water. Kiesu sees the whole thing happen, screaming Essen's name in total shock. His own power starts flaring up as he watches his partner get taken out of the fight. It seems the shrimp can generate some kind of intense steam, boiling the water around it. Kiesu is absolutely losing his mind, watching Essen get cooked. In a flash, he realizes this must be the reef shrimp's ultimate weapon. This monster starts charging up a devastating attack called an air shot. From his rocky perch, Kiesu braces himself as the beast prepares to fire. It unleashes a massive, high-pressure blast aimed right at the helpless Essen. Kiesu just scoffs, raising his arm to intercept the attack himself, and he counters with a ridiculously powerful, lightning-infused strike of his own. Kiesu's eye is wide with sheer determination as he meets the blast head-on. In a flash, he yanks Essen out of the boiling water, demanding to know if he is okay, and our boy is just completely fried, looking like a limp, sweaty noodle after that shock. His partner's state has Kiesu absolutely fuming. Essen is completely out of commission. Tossing Essen onto his back, he roars that he underestimated this thing, a fatal mistake. For now, they are making a tactical retreat, with Kiesu yelling they need to regroup. He panics, realizing he just blew his one big flame charge just to save Essen's hide. But Essen, ever the optimist, just asks if he is gonna start charging up again now. For that brilliant question, Kiesu just slugs him right in the side of the head. Then his eyes go wide with a sudden, horrifying realization. That steam is not just for boiling water, it is creating a massive smokescreen. With Essen out, he deduces the monster's target has now officially switched to him. This two of them stand side by side, soaked but ready for whatever comes next. But as the steam clears, the shrimp looks different, prompting a confused wait a sec. A closer look reveals two glowing ports have opened up on its chest armor. He realizes with dawning horror that this thing does not have one cannon, it has two. Essen's face drains of color as he connects the dots. This just got twice as hard. This monster unleashes two air shots at once, forcing them to dive in opposite directions. Our boy barely manages to evade the high-pressure blast, cursing under his breath. On the other side, Kiesu is in the exact same boat, barely scrambling out of the way. Essen struggles to his feet, admitting they really need to regroup after that beatdown. But Kiesu is having none of it, roaring Essen's name with pure, unadulterated rage. He declares that if that is how it is gonna be, then he has just got to step up, and unleashes a massive wave of his own power right back at the shrimp. This blast kicks up a colossal cloud of steam, completely obscuring the battlefield. Through the mist, the reef shrimp just stands there, looking totally unimpressed by the light show. Kiyosu just clicks his tongue in frustration. His all-out attack barely left a scratch. Now the monster is just staring them down, waiting for their next brilliant move. His eye narrows from behind the bandages as he tries to figure out a new plan. He asks Essen if his gift can do anything to stop that attack since his own clearly failed. Essen says they should retreat for now, but Kiyosu points out his fire resistance potion is wearing off. Holding up the empty vial, he explains that without it, his backlash is a massive liability. This prompts Kiyosu to ask a pretty important question: what exactly can Essen's gift even do? Essen explains he gains the skills of any monster he eats, showing off a freaky new hand. Kiyosu just stares, processing the fact his partner's power is to literally become a monster. Our boy just grins back, telling him not to make it sound so creepy, it is just a skill. Kiyosu then promises that if Essen ever does lose control, he will be the one to put him down. That is surprisingly comforting, and Essen tells him he is counting on it, man. Getting back to business, Kiyosu asks what kind of monster skills would actually work here. Essen figures they need a skill from something that can get close, so he will be the bait. Kiyosu points out the shrimp's antennae are completely defenseless, basically a giant hit-me sign. Then he immediately roars at Essen, asking whose fault it is their brilliant plan completely fell apart. Our boy has to clarify that being bait does not automatically guarantee he will get the skill they need, but Kiyosu knows it is a long shot, arguing that having more options is never a bad thing. With a feral grin, Essen bites his thumb and declares he is all in for this terrible idea. And Kiyosu matches his energy, roaring back as they both prepare to charge in. Across the grotto, the reef shrimp just waits, looking like a giant, angry paperweight. This monster immediately lashes out with a claw swipe that tears through the water, but its eye goes wide in shock when the attack hits nothing but air. Kiyosu just clicks his tongue in annoyance from his perch, having dodged it easily, then declares that screw it, he is going to be the bait now, flaring up his power. He unleashes a massive wave of fire right at the shrimp's face. But the monster's eye just stares back, looking completely unbothered by the incoming inferno. From his position, Kiyosu realizes his attack loses too much power over the distance, and that is when the shrimp's eye widens, locking onto him with terrifying focus, causing Kiyosu's own eye to go wide as he realizes what is about to happen. This monster fires both its cannons at once, unleashing two high-pressure water jets. But this time the blasts converge, creating a massive, swirling vortex of destruction. This combined attack slams right into Kiyosu, engulfing him completely. And as his hand touches the water, he grimly states this is a mutual kill scenario. A wild grin spreads across Essen's face. He is totally on board with the mutual destruction plan. From the water, Kiyosu just stares back, shocked by his partner's suicidal enthusiasm. With a roar, Essen slams his fist right into the monster's face, a direct hit. This shrimp's eye goes wide, completely stunned that the kid actually got that close. His face is pure focus as he grabs on, channeling his power directly into the beast. He holds on tight, using the direct contact to copy the monster's ability. That glint in his eye says it all, the gamble paid off and the skill is his. And just like that, a notification confirms he has acquired the reef shrimp's air shot. Watching from the water, Kiyosu is probably wondering what the hell just happened. Our boy yells for him to get ready, eager to test out his brand new toy. Taking a stance, he prepares to fire his own version of the high-pressure water cannon. This attack erupts from his palm, a concentrated blast of force tearing across the grotto, but the recoil is insane and he complains about the massive kickback from the shot. Meanwhile, the shrimp just takes the hit, looking more confused than actually damaged. Struggling to stay afloat, Kiyosu realizes one shot is not gonna be enough to finish this. Essen, however, just screams back that this is perfect, a crazed grin on his face. He has already analyzed the skill, which works by compressing air with internal muscles. This gives him a new idea: what if they fire their attacks at the same time? They both let loose at once, combining Kiyosu's flames with Essen's new water cannon. There is no time for explanations, he yells, they just have to trust the plan and go. Kiyosu yells at him to just fire the air shot at max power, asking if that will be enough to win. Essen looks totally panicked, admitting he has absolutely no idea if it is gonna work. This kid is sweating buckets, clearly not a fan of this last-ditch gamble. He is still so wrecked from that earlier shock that he can barely even stand up straight. But with a determined look, he agrees to put his faith in Kiyosu's crazy plan. So they both take their stances on the water, ready to unleash their combined might. Kiyosu lets loose with his prominence attack, a massive blast of pure flame, and Essen fires his own blast right alongside it, a jet of high-pressure water. These two attacks immediately start spiraling together, creating a wild vortex of energy. This insane combo beam rockets across the grotto straight for their target. It slams right into the reef shrimp, engulfing the monster in a colossal explosion. Essen just stares, completely stunned by the sheer destructive power they just created. Kiyosu, on the other hand, just looks on with a grimly satisfied smirk. As the smoke clears, the monster's once impenetrable shell is completely shattered. This entire area is a wasteland, but our two heroes are left standing in the aftermath. With one final shudder, the massive beast finally starts to crumble and fall apart. Essen is absolutely ecstatic, cheering that they actually managed to take it down. He gives his partner a thumbs up, saying it was all thanks to his quick thinking. Kiyosu just smirks back, saying of course it was, he is the strongest after all. Now Essen asks if this means they get the water spirit's blessing by trading in a shrimp leg. Essen holds up the giant, steaming shrimp leg, deciding it is only a little burnt, totally edible. He then hoists it to the heavens, declaring this meal will take him to a whole new level of power. This scene then shifts to a vast, empty landscape, signaling their journey's end for now. As they walk, Kiesu asks what is next, and Essen figures he will head home since he is currently homeless. Our boy then turns the question right back on Kiesu, asking about his own plans. With a smirk, Kiesu says he is sticking around to train his apprentice, a promise he intends to keep. He tells Essen this is goodbye, challenging him to become a high-rank adventurer by their next meeting. Essen just grins back, confidently saying that is exactly what he plans to do. As they part ways, Kiesu offers a surprisingly sincere thank you for all the help. He even turns back with a genuine smile, repeating his thanks one last time. Then holds out a bandaged fist, offering a bro-tier fist bump to seal the deal. And Essen meets it with a warm smile, telling him he is welcome. This two of them share a solid fist bump, a perfect end to their chaotic partnership. Sometime later, we see the imposing gates of the Lyceum, which looks like a fancy adventurers guild. Kiesu strolls right in, clearly a high-ranking member who belongs there. Suddenly, the focus shifts to a cascade of long, shimmering hair. Belonging to an armored woman named Polaris who turns as someone calls her name. Her eyes give off a distinct, I am so not in the mood for this vibe. A new guy in a cape swoops in, laying on the charm and calling her beautiful. Polaris just deadpans, asking if he was seriously waiting around to ambush her with compliments again. This smug new guy Wellness is a rank 73 adventurer, and he is here to be a problem. Polaris immediately tells him to get lost, making it clear she is not joining his party. In fact, she straight up calls him a liability, a burn of the highest order. He just grins back, saying she is as harsh as ever, clearly enjoying the verbal abuse. As they walk, he argues their skills would have great synergy even if their personalities do not. She just gives him a dead-eyed stare, completely unimpressed with his little recruitment pitch. While crouching, she asks what he wants because she is definitely not here to make friends. Wellness admits he saw her check the rankings, then run to the lower districts. Yep, he is a stalker. He gets way too close, teasing that a noble like her should not be in such a dirty place. With a sharp slap, she tells him to mind his own damn business and stop talking nonsense. His smug little smirk in response just screams, I know exactly what you are up to. Then he drops the bomb, casually asking if that kid's name was Essen. Polaris completely freezes, her composure shattering at the mention of his name. Wellness leans in, savoring her reaction and noting he has never seen her look so flustered. Her eye is wide with shock, a single drop of sweat betraying her sudden panic. He tells her to relax, promising he will not do anything to Essen. For now. With a condescending tone, he lectures her about the dignity expected of high-ranking adventurers. Then he grabs her chin, threatening that associating with low-rank trash reflects badly on them all. His grip tightens as he makes it clear Essen's fate now depends entirely on her actions. Letting go, he smirks about their vulgar chat, leaving her absolutely seething with rage. Wellness tells her to think carefully about her actions, still acting like he is doing her a favor. But Polaris just glares back, promising she will always be there to welcome him with a fist, probably. Her eyes are just pure, undiluted rage, and you know this little drama is far from over. Meanwhile, back at the Low-Rank Adventurers Guild, life goes on as usual. A quick check of the rankings shows Essen's name sitting at a respectable TH place. Our boy is absolutely beaming, clearly pumped about his progress so far. He even boasts that he has jumped up 20,000 spots since his last expedition alone, though he admits the whole thing was a chaotic mess. And then he spots someone familiar. It is the guild receptionist, Ella, looking over with a super friendly smile. She calls out his name and Essen gives a cheerful wave right back at her. At the counter, she officially welcomes him back after his long trip away from the city. Flipping through a report, she is amazed by what she has read about his recent adventure. Essen just plays it cool, saying he was mostly just along for the ride and did not do much. But she pulls out the official notice, pointing out his name is right there next to the giant monster takedown. He explains that he has to keep up with the news since he is always getting into trouble. With a genuine smile, he thanks her for paying such close attention to his career. This simple compliment immediately sends her into a blushing, flustered mess. Her brain just completely short-circuits from the unexpected praise. She starts waving her hands frantically, insisting she is not specifically tracking him or anything weird. And Essen, dense as a brick, just yells that he gets it. She is worried because he is still a rookie. Ella notes he is getting some seriously dedicated support, especially with so many adventurers around. With a huge grin, Essen just tells her that she is absolutely top tier at her job. This praise immediately makes her puff up her cheeks, completely short-circuiting her brain. She frantically insists a low-rank employee like her has no time to play favorites, then shouts that she is not mad at all, a statement her face completely disagrees with. Our boy is just baffled by this reaction while she hides behind her clipboard. Peeking over the paper, she is still trying to get her composure back, before admitting she is just really glad that he made it back to the city safely. Essen just gives a soft, knowing smile in response to her genuine concern. Back in professional mode, she gives him a thumbs up, telling him to keep up the great work. Meanwhile, some shady cloaked guys are talking about weird tools popping up in the lower districts. As Essen leaves, he tells Ella to stay safe too since the area's getting rough. But she stops him, nervously saying there is one more thing she wanted to discuss. And with a flourish, she presents a handmade guide to recommended dungeons just for him. She explains that she collected a list of places perfect for his current skill level. Our boy is genuinely touched by the gesture, thanking her enthusiastically for the help. He immediately starts flipping through her personalized dungeon-crawling homework. Her top recommendation is a place called the Sword Saints Ravine, a rugged cave system. This place is apparently known as one of the toughest dungeons for any E-rank adventurer. And there is Essen standing at the edge of the massive chasm ready for his next challenge. Essen looks up, realizing this toughest dungeon is not just a suggestion, it is a threat. A giant bird monster of Valleyhawk circles overhead, apparently picky about who it fights. He figures he can use the jagged terrain to his advantage against an aerial enemy. With his current gift, he is confident he can pull off some crazy parkour moves. Without a moment's hesitation, he gets ready to put that theory to the test. Kicking up a cloud of dust, he creates a diversion to start his ascent. Our boy then uses the canyon wall as a springboard, launching himself into the air. Flying sideways through the chasm, he has got his eyes locked on the prize. This Valleyhawk finally spots the human-sized projectile heading its way, and it is not amused. It lets out a piercing shriek, unleashing some kind of sonic or light-based attack. But Essen just powers right through it, completely unfazed by the blast. In a flash, he has latched onto the beast, turning this into a high-altitude wrestling match. A system message pops up. He has just acquired the Valleyhawk's keen eye skill. As they both plummet from the sky, a mysterious hand reaches out from below. This newcomer grabs one of the hawk's long tail feathers with a sharp tug, yanking both Essen and his new feathered friend straight into the ground. Essen lands perfectly, casually thanking the monster for the meal with a feather in his mouth. This defeated Valleyhawk mutters about its keen eye, a term it has never heard before. Now with a new power, Essen's eyes narrow as he decides to give it a little test run. His pupil constricts and suddenly his vision zeroes in on something entirely new. His new skill activates, revealing a massive, glowing handprint on the ground only he can see. This whole world opens up to him, his kinetic vision now operating on a completely insane level. He can even make out a tiny, rabbit-like creature sniffing the air from across the canyon. But then his supersight catches another dark shape moving way off in the distance. It is another one of those giant birds, and it has just snatched up some poor girl in its talons. Except this girl is absolutely thrilled, cheering that she is about to become a tasty meal. Essen just stares in disbelief, realizing an adventurer is being attacked. And she is still being carried off, screaming with what sounds like pure unadulterated joy. He recognizes the beast as a valley falcon and knows he has to intervene. Activating his new eye power again, his vision warps with intense, swirling focus. But the sensory overload is way too much, making him feel sick to his stomach. Realizing he is not used to the skill yet, he quickly forces himself to deactivate it. By the time his vision clears, the bird and its willing victim are already miles away. This girl is now just enjoying the ride, shouting about how she is finally flying. She even starts wondering if she can just take the bird home instead of being eaten. Then she notices something strange on her hand, a small, leafy growth sprouting from her skin. Meanwhile, Essen is already leaping from a cliffside, determined to catch up. With a shout, he promises that he is on his way to save her. Our boy starts bounding across the canyon walls with incredible speed. This girl is completely floored not by the rescue, but that a monster human is talking. Essen spots a river at the bottom of the chasm, a convenient crash pad just in case. With his target miles away, he pours on the speed, rocketing across the canyon. He unleashes some kind of energy whip from his arm, a new trick from his growing arsenal. This attack smacks the falcon's talons, finally getting the attention of its cheerful victim. His keen eye ability activates again, zeroing in on the bird with pinpoint accuracy. In a clean slice, the whip severs the bird's claws right off its leg, which leaves Essen holding a dismembered bird foot that is still attached to the girl. Now free, she immediately starts plummeting to her doom, screaming all the way down. Those severed talons are still clamped firmly around her ankle, a real power move. Essen watches her fall, realizing he has just traded one problem for another, much faster one. But then a system message pops up. He's just acquired the Valley Falcon's silver wings. His eyes snap wide open as the power hits him. Talk about perfect timing. Diving headfirst, he races to intercept her before she becomes a canyon pancake. He reaches out, shouting for her to grab his hand in a classic mid-air rescue. Looking up in shock, the girl reaches back, finally realizing she's being saved. Their fingers brush for a split second as they hurtle toward the ground, and he manages to grab her wrist, arresting their fall just in time. At that exact moment, feathers explode from his back as the new skill kicks in. He is now a full-on harpy, complete with wings and bird legs, carrying the baffled girl. With his newfound flight, he glides them down for a safe landing in the river. Essen looks down, realizing they stopped their fall with literally zero room to spare. This two of them make a glorious splashdown, landing safely in the river below. A wide shot of the canyon shows just how absolutely insane that fall really was. Soaking wet and clothes shredded, Essen apologizes for not being able to control his new powers. He turns with a smile, more concerned about her than his own tattered clothes. Instead of answering, she just grabs his hand with a surprisingly firm grip. She gets right in his face, demanding to know if he is human and how he grew monster parts. Our boy is just completely stunned, not at all the reaction he expected from someone he just saved. She sheepishly apologizes for getting too excited, which is a massive understatement. Composing herself for a second, she introduces herself as Ruka and says she owes him thanks. He tells her his name is Essen, and she immediately starts thanking him with maximum enthusiasm. But Essen's expression shifts, clearly bothered by her bizarrely cheerful reaction to everything. He finally asks the million-dollar question, why is not she scared of him? He explains that her reaction is totally different from others who usually scream at his monster form. Ruka just gives him a thoughtful look like she is processing this new information. She explains her theory: dungeon monsters are bound to their location, so his power must be an adventurer's gift. She admits there is a chance he is just a new type of monster, but then she trails off. A close-up on her face reveals the real reason she is not scared, because she absolutely loves monsters, complete with a terrifyingly ecstatic, drooling expression. And now Essen is the one backing away in terror, realizing he was saved by a total monster fanatic. Ruka casually explains she let herself get captured just to study the monster up close. With that little bombshell dropped, she turns back to Essen with a disturbingly eager grin, and immediately demands he show her his awesome monster wings and fangs again. Essen is not having it, explaining he really does not like showing his gift to people. But she just calls him a big shy guy, insisting it is fine since she has already seen them. After a moment of intense internal debate, he caves to her absolutely unhinged request. With a deep sigh, he activates the Valley Falcon's silver wings skill once more. Ryuka's reaction is pure, unadulterated joy as the massive wings unfurl before her. Her eyes are literally sparkling with stars. This is basically the best day of her life. Our boy looks back, clearly questioning every single life choice that led to this moment. Without any warning, she lunges forward and glomps onto his wing, completely starstruck. Her death grip on his feathers makes him yelp in surprise. Personal space is not in her vocabulary. She then starts rubbing her face all over it, commenting on how soft and fluffy it is. Essen is absolutely mortified, shouting at her to stop because this is just plain weird. He tries to tell her to quit it, but she is completely lost in her own monster-petting world. Finally fed up, he yanks his wing away, shouting for her to seriously knock it off. This wing suddenly dematerializes in a puff of feathers, leaving him looking totally drained. He tells her that being touched like that gives him the absolute creeps. Ruka looks genuinely disappointed, muttering that it is a shame he is not a real monster. Then points out that if she pressed her chest on him, he'd get the creeps too, right? Our boy is just speechless at her bizarre logic while she casually dismisses his discomfort. This kid is just trying to process this conversation, clearly sweating bullets over her personality. Her gaze sharpens for a second like she's actually analyzing the situation for once. Ruka starts grilling him, asking if he is a low-rank adventurer and why his clothes are so torn up. He explains that high-rank gear made from monster parts usually regenerates, unlike his basic stuff. A little impressed, he asks if she is some kind of high-ranking adventurer to know all this. With a smug grin, she reveals she is not an adventurer at all, she is a craftsman. Holding up a finger, she prepares to drop some kind of grand pronouncement. Her solution is to make him new gear, gesturing towards her home, which is a literal walking house. This is all a thank you gift, she explains, for letting her see his awesome monster powers. Leading him up the stairs, she proudly announces that this bizarre walking hut is her workshop. Essen is just staring up in total awe, muttering about how incredible it is. He is stunned to find a workshop this far outside the city walls, basically in the wilderness. This is his first time ever visiting a craftsman's workshop, and it is a lot to take in. She happily agrees her workshop is basically a monster, and Essen deadpans that it looks like a giant spider. Turns out the entire building is her gift called Magic Workshop, and he is fascinated by the idea. But she immediately corrects him with a smug little finger wag, saying he has got it all wrong. Normally, she explains, craftsmen get gifts related to their trade, like blacksmithing or cooking. Those are gifts that are all about enhancing a specific technique or skill. With a sly wink, she explains that her gift is a little different from the rest, just like his is. Essen asks what she means by a special one, totally hooked on her explanation. Ruka leans in with a wild grin, laughing that his gift is just as unique as hers. Leading him inside, she reveals a workshop with a massive forge, leaving Essen stunned. She heads deeper into the chaotic workshop, clearly in her element. Looking around, the place is an absolute mess of supplies, food, and crafting materials. Our boy peeks out from behind a mountain of junk, completely overwhelmed by the chaos. Dropping a mallet, she tells him to just hang out while she preps for the real work. He just gives a cheerful okay, completely oblivious to what is coming next. Then he spots one of her crafting materials, a terrifying, fanged monster skull. Essen notes that her materials are all mid-grade or higher, which is seriously impressive, and then the skull lunges forward and chomps right down on his head. She casually warns him not to touch it, a little late for that advice. With a huge laugh, she adds that it'll probably bite his fingers clean off. He is still recovering while she explains that undead materials are just like that. Our boy fires back that she was the one who touched him without asking, talk about a double standard. But his complaint just gives her a brilliant, terrifying idea, her eyes lighting up. She has already got a new design concept for his gear and is ready to go. Whipping out a notebook, she immediately starts sketching out her grand plan. She mentions it is getting late, which means it is time for the next step. With a completely unhinged grin, she tells him to strip down so she can take his measurements. Essen just stares back with a pained, sweaty smile, not at all ready for this. Before he can even process it, Ruka starts stripping, telling him to hurry up. He stammers that he is not mentally prepared, but she just says she is used to it. With that non-reassurance, she turns and walks deeper into the workshop. when suddenly a loud knock echoes from the front door, catching them both off guard. Essen, still shirtless, grabs Ruka to stop her from answering in this chaos. A silhouetted woman in full armor stands in the doorway asking for sword maintenance. Ruka looks absolutely delighted by the company while Essen looks like he has seen a ghost. This visitor's eyes go wide with shock as she recognizes him, calling out his name. Ruka then gloms onto our boy, cheerfully welcoming the newcomer who she calls Polaris. Polaris immediately blasts something in the workshop, demanding to know what they are doing here. This situation cools down to Polaris sitting stiffly by a woodpile, judging them both. Her gaze is absolutely laser-focused, taking in this incredibly weird scene. Our boy, meanwhile, is just trying to will himself out of existence from pure embarrassment. Polaris, still staring intently, seems to have noticed something about his state. He finally manages a weak smile, trying to play it cool and say it has been a while. She is having none of it, her expression completely flat and unimpressed. Essen tries to laugh it off, commenting on what a crazy coincidence this is. But her cold, hard stare says she is done with the pleasantries, and then her fist connects, sending him flying across the room. Steaming from the impact, Essen tries to laugh off the sudden tension in the room. But Polaris just calls him a nuisance, completely unimpressed by his attempt at humor. Her expression darkens as she tells him to drop the act. She knows something's up, and one look at his half-dressed state is all the proof she needs to make assumptions. Panicking, Essen insists this is all a misunderstanding. Ruka was the one who made him strip. He frantically adds that he literally just met the girl today, which only seems to make Polaris's eye twitch with even more suspicion. A dangerous smile spreads across her face as she repeats his words back to him. At a woman's house he just met. Our boy immediately realizes he chose the absolute worst possible way to phrase that, and now he is desperately trying to backtrack, insisting it is not what she thinks. Polaris calmly explains that she was not playing around, this was all necessary for measurements. With a little sigh, she seems to be letting the whole thing go for now. Then she hits him with a smug "just kidding," enjoying his panic a little too much. This poor guy looks like his soul left his body as she admits she just wanted to mess with him. She offers a half-hearted apology, saying he looked like he was about to die of shock, before explaining that she has known Ruka way longer and is well aware of her eccentricities. This leads her to ask the obvious question, is Ruka making Polaris's equipment? Ruka turns and confirms it with a simple "that is right." Then she proudly announces she is a top-tier craftsman, famous even among the elite adventurers, which explains Polaris's shock. She was surprised to find a rookie like him here with her. Ruka calls out to Polaris, who has been waiting patiently for her turn. With a cheerful smile, she hands back the newly serviced sword, announcing the maintenance is done. She explains she just made a few minor tweaks to improve its magic flow, and Polaris is grateful. Ruka cannot help but gush over how consistently high quality all of Polaris's equipment is. Testing it out, Polaris channels some dark energy into the blade, which immediately flares to life. This praise makes Ruka blush as she insists her work only looks good because the base materials are amazing. Essen is just putting it all together. This chaotic girl is the personal craftsman for a top-tier adventurer. She finally turns back to him, apologizing for the delay, but he just plays it cool. Promising to get his gear done in a flash, she dives right back into her design sketches. Meanwhile, Polaris just watches from the corner, her silent judgment radiating through the entire room. Ruka gets to work taking his measurements, and our boy looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. After jotting down some notes, she pauses with a classic "by the way." She finally asks the million-dollar question, how exactly do the two of them know each other? Both of them get super awkward, stammering out a vague confirmation that yeah, they do. Polaris elaborates while pouring a drink, mentioning they are from the same hometown. Ruka finds this fascinating, asking if they are not on good terms since they adventure separately. Essen tries to laugh it off, explaining they were actually in the same party when they first started out. Taking a sip, Polaris adds that a massive skill gap between them appeared almost immediately. And with a chilling glare, she reveals Essen was the one who selfishly disbanded their party. He immediately throws his hands up in surrender, frantically apologizing for that whole disaster. Essen admits with a pained smile that he was fully aware he was holding her back. Ruka chimes in that Polaris's growth rate was just completely off the charts, explaining how she shot up to rank 9 in a single year, a total prodigy. She figures Essen was just getting carried and his pride could not handle it, but he fires back that raw power without the numbers to back it up is meaningless, and that little bit of defiance earns a rare, gentle smile from Polaris. This is when Ruka suddenly blurts out that she likes Essen, completely shocking Polaris. Our boy immediately combusts into a steamy mess, yelling that she has got it all wrong. Unfazed, Ruka grabs his vest, declaring she will forge gear to match his new resolve. Polaris looks on, surprised, asking if she is seriously becoming his personal craftsman. With a sly grin, Ruka explains it is her thank you gift for him saving her in a dungeon. Polaris just closes her eyes with a sigh, finally accepting this bizarre situation. A quick flashback shows a younger, terrified Ruka lost in the wilderness, revealing she was being held captive by a giant monster right when Essen found her. Back in the present, she is frantically apologizing for dragging him into all her trouble. Then she points at him with total confidence, promising he is going to get way stronger. Essen just looks on, a little stunned by her sudden and absolute faith in him. Amused, Polaris adds that this should be fun, it'd be a problem if he did not improve. Fired up by the challenge, Essen declares he is absolutely going to catch up to her. And the two women just share a knowing look, totally enjoying his newfound determination. With her sword serviced, Polaris heads for the door, getting a casual send-off from the chaotic duo. But just as she is about to leave, a new hand slams against the doorframe. Another visitor has arrived. A smug-looking knight appears, chiding Polaris for coming to such a backwater place. She is absolutely furious, shouting the newcomer's name, Wellness, like it is a curse. Our boy Essen is just completely lost, watching this new drama unfold with a giant question mark. Polaris's eyes narrow with suspicion, clearly wondering about the timing of his sudden appearance. Even Essen can feel the mood shift, his expression tensing up immediately. She spits Wellness's name out again, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage. Ruka, meanwhile, just watches the whole meltdown with a perfectly blank stare, just another Tuesday for her. Essen turns to her, asking if she knows this guy who is obviously an acquaintance of Polaris. Wellness completely ignores him, sniffing the air and complaining about an unpleasant smell while staring right at Essen. Something shatters on the floor as the tension in the room finally boils over. This knight looms over our boy with a condescending smirk, clearly enjoying the intimidation. Sweating bullets, Essen weakly asks what the hell this guy's problem is. Wellness just lets out a little chuckle, completely unfazed by the confrontation he started. Then he gets to the point, demanding to know why a shabby-looking man is in this workshop. Essen is just stunned into silence, not even sure how to respond to the blatant insult. But before he can get decked again, Polaris steps in, telling Wellness to back the hell off. He claims a rat like Essen will tarnish her beauty just by being nearby. What a creep. Ruka finally speaks up, warning Wellness that even clients need to choose their words carefully. Ruka fires back that this is her house and she will invite whoever she damn well pleases, adding with a flick of her wrist that she certainly does not remember inviting him. Wellness just smirks, claiming he is only here to pick up Polaris and will be on his way. But Essen is not having it, shouting for everyone to just hold on a second. Stepping up, he demands to know who this jerk is and what gives him the right to be so rude. Oh, but Wellness is just asterisk so above it all, telling this low-class adventurer to know his place. That insult lands and our boy is absolutely seething with rage. This knight continues his monologue, saying a rat from a different world could not possibly understand. He then introduces himself as Wellness, rank 73, a noble genius blessed by the gods. What a resume. And for the grand finale, he declares he is Polaris's lover, which is news to literally everyone in the room. Polaris's brain just completely short-circuits at that bombshell, her expression screaming what? Our boy Essen is right there with her, looking equally confused and horrified. Ruka, meanwhile, is the only one who seems completely unfazed by this little soap opera. Panicked, Essen turns to Polaris, desperately asking if what this guy said is actually true. Her silence and flustered look are not exactly a denial. She is realizing that if she does not clear this up right now, Essen's going to get the completely wrong idea. A spark of determination flashes in her eyes, but Wellness is just standing there, enjoying the chaos he has created way too much. This absolute fury is practically radiating off of her. And Essen, seeing her hesitation, comes to the only logical conclusion: it must be true. His world just shatters, the look in his eye saying it is all over. Dejected, he mutters that it is not like they are kids anymore, so of course this kind of thing happens. Polaris is just seething, clenching her fists so hard her knuckles are probably dust. And of course, Wellness throws his head back with a triumphant laugh, mission accomplished. A dark aura flares around Polaris's hand as she finally decides she has had enough of this clown. Grabbing him by the collar, she tells him to get his filthy face out of her sight forever. This sheer rage coming off her is enough to make the air crackle with tension. Essen just stares in shock, weakly telling Polaris it is probably time for her to go home. With one last glare, she drags the smug knight out the door, finally leaving the workshop. Suddenly, we cut to a lonely signpost in the middle of nowhere, overlooking a distant estate under a starry sky as someone laughs like a total psycho. Wellness taunts Polaris about her childish behavior and her pathetic expression back there. He's got this disgusting grin, saying he really enjoyed the show she put on for him. Her eyes go wide, the full weight of his manipulative little game finally hitting her. He then adds that Essen will not break from something like this. He is just twisting the knife. With a smug little smirk, he points out how frustrated she looked, clearly loving her pain. Her gaze sharpens as she realizes he is the one who orchestrated this whole disaster. Looking down on him, she calls him pathetic for being swayed by a simple lie. She furiously adds that because of a small fry like him, she cannot even get her gift taken away. But Wellness just warns her from the ground that she really should not underestimate Essen. Polaris fires back that Essen will climb the ranks on his own power because they made a promise. Her eyes are burning with pure fury as she vows to crush Wellness's malicious little game. And Wellness just meets her rage with that same condescending, smug-ass smile. He even laughs, calling her trust in Essen splendid and saying it'll be a sight to see him recover. Adding that if Essen does get back up, he will just enjoy crushing him all over again. Meanwhile, we cut away to a quiet shot of a building at night, showing the town is completely oblivious to the emotional train wreck that just happened. Back at the workshop, Essen just taps his foot, lost in his own miserable thoughts. This poor guy is just a hollowed-out shell after that whole confrontation, and he finally just collapses face first onto a cot, completely drained of all energy. Lying there, he is desperately trying to understand why he is so damn hurt by all this. It was just a simple fact, right? Polaris has a lover now, and that is all there is to it. In his mind, she has got everything: a top-tier rank, a personal craftsman, and a partner, so he wonders what possible reason she could have for waiting on someone like him. He starts questioning their entire connection. Was it a promise, an obligation, or just pity? His thoughts drift back to a memory of a younger Polaris, her back turned to him. Remembering her telling him that things were no good when he was not around. This weight of that old memory just crashes down on him in the present, taking him back to a quiet, snowy day in their old hometown, and from inside one of the houses you can just hear the sound of someone sobbing. This memory dives into a dark, messy room where a tiny Polaris is huddled all alone. She is just a little kid, crying her eyes out and looking absolutely terrified. When a young Essen suddenly bursts in, telling her they are making a run for it. He yells that she cannot stay here with her violent, abusive father a second longer. Scared, she asks where they could possibly go, but he insists anywhere is better than this. And right on cue, a loud crash signals that their escape plan has been discovered. As Essen pulls her away, her hulking father appears, demanding to know what they are doing. This man immediately smashes a bottle right over our boy's head, a warm family welcome, but even with blood pouring down his face, the kid's eyes are burning with defiance. He grits his teeth and stands between Polaris and her monster of a dad. A moment later, the big guy is knocked out cold on the floor. These two kids then walk off into the snow, Essen promising he will always protect her. He tells her his dream of them becoming the greatest adventurers together when they turn 10. Soon after, Polaris awakens her gift, an ice power she calls Silver World. Her power is immense, leaving a young Essen to just watch from the ground. Again and again, she'd tell him how her rank was climbing, widening the gap between them. In his mind, she is ascending a staircase to rank 1, a place he cannot follow. Yet even as a famous adventurer, she'd always look back and call out his name. All these memories just reinforce his feeling of being left behind and totally useless. Which brings us back to the present with that same old despair in his eyes. This next morning, Essen finally stirs from his emotional coma on the cot, and he is immediately hit with the memory of that pathetic dream, feeling like total garbage. Deciding to get some fresh air, he heads outside to the well, still stewing in his own misery. He tries to literally splash the bad vibes away, a classic move that never actually works. While he is trying to pull himself together, a couple of other adventurers are just chatting nearby. But he just cannot shake the thought, why would someone like Polaris ever really care about him? He knows she is not the type to break a promise, which only makes this whole thing more confusing. Then it hits him, he completely ghosted Ruka and needs to go apologize for his little meltdown. Realizing just how incredibly rude he was, he starts the long walk of shame back to her workshop. Meanwhile, Ruka's just chilling by the fire, probably wondering where her dramatic guest ran off to. Her face suddenly lights up as she spots him approaching. He is here. Our boy immediately goes into a full-on apology bow for dipping without a word yesterday. She admits she was worried when he just vanished into thin air, but he just keeps apologizing. But she is just glad he is back and drops some awesome news. His new gear is already finished. Essen's jaw just hits the floor. She finished it overnight. She just shrugs it off, saying she got into a creative groove because sleep is for the weak apparently. He is just blown away by her dedication, and she tells him to go check out his new stuff. And there it is, a brand new piece of gear just waiting for him on the desk. He picks up what looks like a wicked new blade, feeling its weight in his hand. With his new weapon equipped, he takes a determined step forward, crushing a rock underfoot. It is go time. He suits up in the new gear, asking Ruka if it actually looks good on him. She proudly explains the specs. It is lightweight, mobile, and even has a self-repair function. Talk about an upgrade. This thing is made from C-rank materials but is apparently tough enough to survive a B-rank dungeon. Our boy is practically bouncing off the walls, amazed at how incredibly light it is. She then tells him to try out the regeneration feature, and he is totally game. And just like that, a pair of badass wings just burst from his back. Ruka is totally fawning over them, saying his wings are as cool as ever. This wings retract back into the armor just as she tells him to hurry up and put them away. And the armor just seals itself up, leaving Essen stunned that the self-repair actually works. He is blown away that she did all this with C-rank materials, but she just calls it an investment in his future. With a huge grin, she tells him to get stronger and earn some cash because next time she is charging him. Her words seem to hit him hard, leaving him a little stunned. But then a genuine smile breaks through and he promises to do just that, get stronger. Ruka's playful mood vanishes and she just stares at him with a serious look. She then points out that despite the new gear, his spirits are still obviously in the toilet. And then she just drops the bomb, asking him straight up if he is in love with Polaris. That question just completely short-circuits his brain, leaving him totally speechless. Looking away, he starts to wonder if maybe that is what this feeling has been all along. She tells him that is how it seemed to her, and he just quietly asks if that is how it looked. She explains that anyone would have guessed, seeing how completely and utterly crushed he was yesterday. Essen just gives this pained, awkward smile, trying to process being called out so directly. He slumps down by the fire while Ruka just watches him, giving him a moment to breathe. Her expression is just pure empathy. She can see this dude is completely falling apart. Gently, she offers to listen if he ever feels like talking about what is tearing him up inside. She just waits patiently, letting him decide if he is ready to unpack all that emotional baggage. Finally looking up, he says that as an adventurer, he is used to seeing people get hurt like this. Ruka agrees, recounting the brutal life of an adventurer. Death, betrayal, and despair are just part of the job. but she insists that everyone who sticks with it is strong in both body and mind. After all, you need some serious mental fortitude to risk your life fighting monsters every day. To demonstrate, she picks up a hard-shelled nut from the ground, holding it up. And with a sharp crack, she shatters it in her bare hand. Talk about a visual aid. This broken pieces just sit in her palm as she makes her point crystal clear. She explains that no matter how tough something is on the outside, it always has a weak point. And the inside, she adds, is always way more fragile as she pops the nut in her mouth. Essen just watches her, the gears in his head slowly turning as her lesson sinks in. In his mind, he is that cracked nut. His tough exterior is gone and he is a mess inside. Ruka tells him it is not a weakness to rely on others instead of carrying it all alone. Our boy just sits there hunched over, completely overwhelmed by this impromptu therapy session. With a sad smile, he admits he does not even know if what he feels for Polaris is actually love. He just wanted to protect her, he says, but her will to do the same was always stronger. Essen finally starts to open up, saying before her gift, Polaris was just a weakling who needed him. His story goes way back to a graveyard. Her mom died young and her dad became a violent drunk. In his memory, a giant fist hangs over a terrified little Polaris who could only endure the abuse in silence. He tells Ruka he could not stand it anymore, so he grabbed Polaris and they just ran from their village. Sitting down, he figures Ruka probably knows the rest of the story from their adventure days. This two of them made a promise back then to become the greatest adventurers in the world together. He admits that even when she left him behind, that promise was the only thing keeping him going. But then Wellness showed up, calling himself Polaris's lover, and all the fight just drained out of him. Our boy looks totally lost, saying that was not supposed to be his reason for pushing so hard. He just completely collapses into a ball of misery while Ruka watches, taking it all in. Leaning in with a knowing smile, she is like, "Yep, that is jealousy, my friend." Essen throws his hands up, calling himself pathetic, while Ruka just finds the whole meltdown adorable. She just laughs it off, telling him it is totally fine and not pathetic at all. But he is not having it, insisting it is lame to be driven by such a petty emotion over a simple promise. Ruka's face lights up, completely disagreeing with his self-pity party. Her sudden confidence just leaves him staring, totally caught off guard by her conviction. With a huge grin, she tells him that being able to admit his ugly feelings means he is going to be just fine. He is just frozen, her words hitting him like a ton of bricks. With a sad smile, he wonders if that is true, since he feels like he has lost his reason to even try anymore. Ruka just turns to him and says he does not need to change a thing, leaving him completely confused. Ruka points out he made up this whole drama without even asking Polaris what she thinks. She keeps the roast going, calling him a presumptuous and pathetic man for his assumptions. With a pained smile, Essen asks if he is supposed to just give up because she has a lover. Clenching his fist, he admits that deep down, he really does not want to give up on her. A flashback shows a young Polaris peeking around a corner, full of hope and admiration. In his memory, a younger Essen declares he saved her because he liked her and wanted to protect her. Then he remembers Polaris wanting to catch up so they could be adventurers together forever. Back in the present, Ruka cheers him on, but our boy is still just a sad little lump. She gets annoyed, telling him to stop being so indecisive and just make a choice already. Then a sly grin spreads across her face as she offers a solution. If Polaris dumps him, he can be her boyfriend. Essen's brain just completely short-circuits at the suggestion, a solid moment. Unfazed, she says she could be his new reason to fight and get stronger. Her fantasy, however, involves being carried off by monsters. Yeah, she's got some very specific tastes. Our boy realizes she's not talking about romance, but about getting mauled by monsters for fun. He literally leaps away, begging her to spare him because he is not into that kind of thing. Ruka just clears her throat, playing it off like a joke, though Essen is clearly traumatized. With a bright smile, she points out that he seems to be feeling much better now, though. Essen looks up, the despair gone from his eyes, replaced with sheer bewilderment. He manages a genuine thank you, and she just brushes it off with a casual wave. Standing up, she says it is hard watching a friend suffer, and she did it as a favor to a customer. Fired up, Essen declares he's going to give it another shot, and Ruka is all smiles. She cheers him on as he bolts off into the distance. The training arc has officially begun. And he immediately dives into action, putting his new gear to work against some unlucky monster. A whole 3 weeks pass with our boy on the non-stop dungeon crawling grind. During that time, he has been hitting every dungeon possible to farm as many new skills as he can. He even learned how to jump on air, basically turning himself into a budget superhero. Another new trick is a basilisk's evil eye that petrifies whatever he looks at. Talk about a death stare. Feeling way stronger now, he heads back to check the adventure rankings, curious about his progress. There is a new confidence in his eyes, the look of a guy who expects to see some serious results. This board reveals his new rank is 50,553, not exactly top of the charts, but it is a start. He is actually pretty pumped, realizing he is just a stone's throw from the mid-rank adventure border. Just then, a guild staffer in a maid outfit approaches him to see how he is doing. She is impressed with his progress, so he immediately asks if she knows any other good dungeons to clear, but she suggests that maybe he should try a different kind of job for a change of pace. Essen is completely baffled, a job that is not clearing dungeons. What is this madness? With a pleasant smile, she clarifies that she has a special request for him from the guild. Apparently, the guild offers more than just monster-slaying gigs, which is a surprise to him. He confirms there is a reward because our boys gotta get paid. Still, he is a little hesitant, admitting his top priority is just climbing that leaderboard. This staffer gets serious, wagging her finger and reminding him that overconfidence is the fastest way to get killed. She tells him that sometimes adventurers just need to step away from dungeons to cool their heads. Essen just stares, finally learning the guild staffer's name is Ururu. With a playful wink, she promises this job is more of a fun break than hard labor. That seems to do the trick because our boy finally agrees to take the request. Ururu is absolutely ecstatic, celebrating like she just closed the deal of a lifetime. She then heads off to get things ready, another guild member in tow. But Essen is left completely clueless, wondering what kind of preparations she is talking about. Elsewhere, we cut to a shady meeting between two figures on a balcony. This is a few days ago at Wellness's mansion, and he has just gotten an update. Lounging in his robe, he smugly asks if that trash adventurer has finally given up. His subordinate reports that, on the contrary, Essen seems more motivated than ever. Wellness immediately throws a tantrum, kicking a table in frustration. He complains that breaking Polaris's spirit was supposed to be the easiest way to crush Essen. His henchman points out that if psychological warfare is not working, they will have to get direct, and Wellness, ever the strategist, casually suggests just murdering him. This armored goon starts to panic, realizing a murder would get him excommunicated from the church. Suddenly, Wellness just completely zones out, looking dazed while holding his drink. This armored guy's internal monologue is screaming, he was only supposed to be a spy. He is absolutely terrified, realizing he is not cut out for this level of villainy. Wellness then snaps out of it, revealing he went to see Essen's pathetic face for himself. Wellness lectures his armored goon, explaining that this kind of dirty work is their job, not his. He smirks, saying the guy can always refuse, but then he will get kicked out of the party, a real team player. Leaning in, he drops a casual threat about the goon's family, just in case he was not motivated enough. This poor armored spy looks absolutely defeated, clearly regretting all his life choices up to this point. But Wellness, in a stunning display of kindness, says he will not make the guy get his hands dirty, because he apparently got a fun new toy recently and his expression is pure evil glee. This new toy is a creepy crystal orb which he holds up for a little villainous show and tell. His henchman is, understandably, freaking out and asking what the hell that thing is. With a sinister laugh, Wellness calls it his secret weapon, gesturing towards a nearby building. Meanwhile, back in the present, Essen is walking through town with Ururu and her fellow guild staffer. Ururu cheerfully announces they have arrived, while our boy looks like he has no idea what is happening. This trio heads down a quiet street, the purpose of this little field trip still a complete mystery to him. Finally, the other staffer reveals the job. Essen is supposed to be her bodyguard for the day. Our boy just laughs, smugly pointing out that monsters do not exactly roam the city streets, famous last words. She calmly corrects him, noting that monsters are not the only dangerous things in the world. This simple fact leaves Essen completely baffled, his brain buffering in real time. Their walk takes them into a much shadier part of town with some very sketchy people just hanging around. This alley is packed with rough-looking characters, including one guy who looks like a giant insectoid monster. He clocks that they are in the slums but still seems to think this bodyguard gig is a total cakewalk. But he is still totally confused, wondering why on earth they have come to a place like this. Ururu explains their job is basically a welfare check on adventurers who have fallen off the map. Their beat today is the slums, checking on local adventurers who have not logged in for a while. Our boy is pretty impressed, admitting that sounds like a seriously tough gig. So he puffs out his chest, promising to protect Ururu with his very life. He is taking this bodyguard thing seriously, and she just gives him this incredibly sweet, almost mysterious smile in return. As she happily leads the way, Essen's already looking like he regrets his life choices. Their first stop is a bleak little room where they find someone just kneeling in the doorway. This whole vibe is just depressing, with the person totally unresponsive on a filthy floor. Essen is amazed she has not gotten lost, asking if she has a map built into her brain. Turns out it is her gift, she is a guide, which basically gives her a divine GPS. This power also lets her find lost items and track down their owners, which is honestly pretty useful. With her list of down-on-their-luck adventurers complete, she checks off the final name. Walking back, she says the whole thing went off without a hitch thanks to him. Ururu cheerfully tells him to call on her anytime, saying she is counting on him too. He thanks her for the day and tells her to be careful heading home. She just gives him a friendly wave, the job officially wrapped up. Essen actually manages a relaxed smile and a wave back, the tension gone. Left on his own, he decides to grab some supplies before heading back. But up on the rooftops, a mysterious person is watching his every move. While Essen strolls along, completely oblivious and thinking it was a pretty decent day off. Back at his place, Essen finds a mysterious note tacked to his door, definitely not a welcome home gift. He rips it off, annoyed and assuming it is just some dumb prank about his rent. But it is a ransom note. They have kidnapped Ururu, the guild staffer he was just with. This kid's brain just completely short-circuits at the news. Then he notices the note was pinned with Ururu's hairpin, confirming this is terrifyingly real. A quick flashback confirms it is the exact same one she was wearing just a little while ago. Pure panic hits him as he realizes she is in genuine danger because of him. All his groceries go crashing to the floor, dinner can wait, there is a damsel to save. Without a second's hesitation, our boy is out the door and sprinting to the rescue. Landing hard on the pavement, his mind races, wondering how anyone could have gotten to her. He sprints towards the location from the note, a grim look plastered on his face. This meeting spot is a totally deserted back alley, peak kidnapping and murder vibes. Our boy is trying to piece it together, who would do this and why drag Aruru into it. Cautiously, he peeks around the corner to get a look at the situation inside. Through a crack in the wall, he gets his first glimpse of what is happening. And what he sees immediately makes his blood run completely cold. It is Aruru, held at knife point by the same goon from Wellness's mansion, now unmasked. Essen immediately crashes the party, arms thrown wide as he screams her name. This goon just smirks, totally expecting him, while a bandaged Aruru looks on. She recognizes his voice instantly, and her captor looks smug as hell about it. Essen makes his grand hero entrance, asking the clearly not okay Aruru if she is alright. This goon just presses the blade tighter against her neck, telling her to behave. That knife digs in a little deeper just to make sure everyone understands the stakes. Our boy is absolutely losing it, screaming at the guy to back the hell off. He demands to know why this is happening, pointing out they are complete strangers. With a smug little smirk, the henchman just echoes back. Why, you ask? It is simple, really. This is all happening because Essen just refuses to give up. This name, Wellness, drops and Essen's brain just completely blue screens. This goon lays it all out. Wellness wants Polaris, and to get her he needs to deal with Essen. Pure rage hits our boy as he realizes this is all that high-rank adventurer's scheme. This henchman starts whining that they are not even a couple anymore, so this whole job is pointless. But since they are both being stubborn, he has been ordered to just kill Essen. What a drag. It all clicks for Essen. They used Aruru as bait because this is just how Wellness operates. We get a lovely mental image of Wellness as a puppet master, using weaker adventurers to isolate his targets. Essen finally gets it. Their breakup was a lie to protect him from exactly this kind of garbage. He clenches his fist, the guilt hitting him hard that Aruru is now paying the price for his drama. Having laid out his entire villain resume, the goon confirms he understands the situation. Essen tells him to let her go since he is the one the guy is actually after. In that moment, he realizes this goon is just as pathetic and cruel as his boss. He finally snaps, telling the guy to shut up and stop being a mindless puppet. This goon declares he is just following Wellness's orders, which means he has to take Essen down right here. Essen screams back that this is just a cheap trick and demands he let Aruru go. But Aruru seems genuinely confused by the phrase cheap trick, which is a little odd. Then the henchman pulls out Wellness's fun new toy, that creepy crystal orb from before. Our boy has no clue what he is looking at, but he knows it is about to ruin his day. With a smug grin, the goon calls it a sealed jewel, a special gift from his boss. He explains that with this, he can kill Essen without technically committing a crime himself, a real legal scholar. This plan is simple. A monster will suddenly appear and take care of Essen for him, and right on cue, a massive, horrifying monster with a giant mouth erupts from the orb. This sheer force of the summoning sends the goon flying backwards. Maybe he should have read the manual. Essen is completely stunned by the monster's appearance, while the henchman laughs like a maniac. Aruru is also sent tumbling to the ground from the shockwave of the summoning. This idiot is having the time of his life, identifying the beast as a volcano dragon. He adds that it is a particularly nasty rank monster just for that extra bit of overkill. In a glorious moment of instant karma, the dragon's tail whips around and smacks both the goon and Aruru. Debris from a shattered wall explodes right next to Essen's head as the alley falls apart. He ducks for cover, trying to process the absolute train wreck this situation has become. This massive dragon now looms over the entire warehouse, looking extremely ticked off. Our boy is just trying to figure out how someone summoned a monster in the middle of the city, but he shakes it off, realizing he has no time to think when there is a dragon to deal with. With the dragon's tail whipping wildly, Essen screams Aruru's name and dashes to her side. She hits the ground hard, sent flying into the rubble as the whole alley crumbles. He immediately grabs her, frantically asking if she is okay while she just looks totally dazed. This dragon, meanwhile, is looming over the unconscious goon, apparently planning to eat him. So much for a clean getaway. Essen helps Aruru to her feet, telling her to stand up and run while she still can, but she is not having it, pleading with him to escape with her instead of playing the hero. He realizes if this is a real volcano dragon, it is strong enough to wipe out mid-rank adventurers instantly. That horrifying fact sinks in for Aruru, who looks like her soul just left her body. With a look of pure determination, Essen declares that he is going to hold it off. She is completely stunned, unable to process his absolutely insane plan. He yells at her to go call for backup, arguing he cannot let a monster like this run wild in the city. For a second, she is just frozen, completely at a loss for words. He admits to himself that he wants to run too, but knows the damage would be catastrophic if he did. A grim, almost pained smile crosses his face as he steels his resolve. What a day off. Turning to face the beast, he tells her the choices he has made have made him stronger, and now he has to fight. Aruru just stares at his back, completely speechless at this sudden burst of courage. He gives her a quick thumbs up, promising he will totally run if things get really bad, a classic hero lie. Our boy even adds that he will not be reckless, which is the most reckless thing you can possibly say right now. Tears well up in her eyes as she is totally overwhelmed by his willingness to sacrifice himself. With one last quiet, determined smile, Essen prepares to face the rank monster alone. Iruru, wiping away a tear, finally agrees to his insane plan. She bolts, promising to bring back high-rank adventurers and screaming at him not to die. Now alone, Essen turns to the dragon, telling it to behave. Yeah, good luck with that. This volcano dragon just stares him down, a literal mountain of scales and bad attitude. Its sheer size is overwhelming, every muscle promising a world of hurt. Crushing pressure makes him realize this is the kind of stuff Polaris deals with daily. With a deafening roar, the beast lunges forward to turn him into a fine red mist. Essen barely dodges a claw swipe that absolutely pulverizes the ground where he just stood. Just the shockwave sends him flying backwards like a ragdoll. He tumbles hard across the shattered pavement, completely outmatched. A brutal impact knocks the wind right out of him with a pained scream. Dazed and on the ground, he can barely even get a word out. Forcing himself up, he curses the impossible situation he is stuck in. Coughing up blood, he admits this thing is way too strong, a stunning revelation. His only shot is to get in close and try to steal its gift, whatever that is. So with zero hesitation, he dashes straight towards the monster's flank. Moving like a blur, the kid tries to find an opening in its defenses. He unleashes his air shot, firing a compressed blast of air from his palm. His attack lands squarely on the dragon's thick hide with a satisfying thud. And does absolutely nothing, which is just fantastic news for everyone involved. This dragon's eye glances down, completely unfazed by his little air puff. A loud cracking sound echoes through the alley, the sound of his attack failing miserably. Essen's face just screams pure disbelief. His best shot was a complete dud. A quick mental rundown confirms this thing has impenetrable scales and breathes fire. Great. Gritting his teeth, he admits he has no way to actually damage this thing. Then an idea hits him as he spots the unconscious goon lying in the rubble. A new plan forms and he immediately activates his gift plunder on the henchman. His strategy is simple. He is going to use the opponent's own power against the dragon. A stream of energy flows from the henchman as Essen literally yanks his power away. Now powered up, he taunts the dragon, basically daring it to hit him with its fire. Taking the bait, the volcano dragon unleashes a massive fireball right at him. But instead of dodging, Essen meets the blast head-on, ready to devour its power. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the city, two other adventurers are just walking along, minding their business. This girl with the spiky pigtails suddenly stops, her face a mask of pure shock. A massive tremor rocks the street, making them both stumble in total confusion. Her companion looks around wildly, shouting about whether it is an earthquake. Then they spotted a massive plume of smoke rising from a nearby district. This guy speculates it is an explosion, wondering who'd be using a gift like that here. From a rooftop view, we see them standing in the street, staring towards the chaos. Suddenly, a piece of debris from the explosion comes crashing down right next to them. This girl with the spiky pigtails suddenly sprouts massive wings, shielding her companion from the blast. With a pained grunt, she struggles to hold back the sheer force of the impact. Her wings are already starting to disintegrate, the raw power of the explosion just too much. Her buddy is completely losing it, pointing and accusing her of being a monster who caused all this. Panicked, she yells back that it was not her, looking totally freaked out by the situation. Now in the alley, she is screaming at the other adventurers to get away from the danger. A look of pure horror crosses her face as she finally identifies the real culprit, a volcano dragon. It is a full-blown crisis with a whole squad of adventurers now staring down the beast, and right on cue the dragon unleashes a tidal wave of fire across the entire district. This inferno just rips through the city, leaving a trail of absolute devastation. Just a glimpse of the dragon's hide is visible through the roaring, city-leveling flames. Her poor buddy gets caught dead center in the blast, completely swallowed by the fire. She is left holding the charred upper half of her friend's body, just screaming in agony. A sickening crack echoes through the air as the aftermath settles in with brutal finality. All that is left is a single hand lying motionless on the scorched pavement. Back with Essen, he is just kneeling in the rubble, witnessing the absolute carnage unfold. This horror sinks in as he wonders just how many people were killed in that one blast. Through the smoke and fire, the dragon's terrifying silhouette emerges once more. It just stares down at the destruction it caused, a monument to mindless rage. And in that moment, the true weight of this disaster crashes down on Essen. This dragon's massive claws slam down, kicking up a storm of fire and debris. Essen's face is pure horror as he realizes letting this thing escape means even more carnage. He knows if he does not stop it right here, the body count is going to be catastrophic. With a furious roar, the dragon's tail whips around and just absolutely demolishes him. Our boy goes flying like a discarded action figure, completely helpless against the blow. He cannot believe his attacks could not even scratch its wings, let alone its scales. Before he can even recover, the dragon's massive jaw opens for another devastating attack. It unleashes a whole barrage of fireballs, not even giving him a second to breathe. Essen gets caught dead center in the blast, letting out a raw scream of agony. This explosion just engulfs him completely, a direct hit from an rank monster. He is left a crumpled mess in the rubble, the fight knocked right out of him. Barely conscious, he just stares up, completely defeated by the overwhelming power gap. His hand reaches out weakly, a last-ditch effort that is going absolutely nowhere. Looking up at the dragon, he thinks this is it, this is how his day off ends. Then a mysterious voice cuts through the chaos, calling him pathetic, talk about kicking a guy when he is down. A blur of motion zips past, moving way too fast for him to even track. Essen's eyes go wide with shock, trying to process who or what just showed up. A new intense gaze focuses on the scene, and it definitely does not belong to the dragon. From the ground, our boy just stares in total disbelief at the sudden arrival. A foot slams down in front of him as his savior scoffs at him for struggling with a mere dragon. This volcano dragon suddenly whips its head around, distracted by a new sound, and it gets absolutely slammed by a massive, unseen force that just erupts on its flank. A huge explosion engulfs the beast, sending shockwaves through the ruined alley. Essen, still on the ground, looks back in total shock at the sudden turn of events. Then a cloaked guy with spiky hair dashes into the fray with a ton of confidence. He smirks, greeting our boy and revealing his name is Keys, long time no see. Standing over Essen, Keys casually asks what the hell he is doing in this disaster zone. This guy explains he was just at the guild when a certain receptionist came tearing in. Apparently she was screaming about a volcano dragon and some low ranker about to get eaten. And that is when he heard a very familiar name being thrown around, Essen's. So being the strongest adventurer, he decided to show up and lend a hand. What a guy. Of course, he adds that Essen totally owes him for this little rescue mission. Our boy just stares up, barely able to process that his rival, Keys, is actually here. Essen argues their ranks are similar, so it is still dangerous, but Keys just calls him an idiot. Turns out he's been training hard and just hit B rank, flexing his new power level. This news that Keys is a B rank adventurer absolutely shatters Essen's brain. Forgetting the danger, Essen grabs him, gushing about how awesome he is while Keys just soaks it in. But then our boy declares that Keys is the only one he recognizes as a true rival for the top spot. With a wild grin, Keys tells him to hurry up and deal with this mess so he can catch up. A huge, determined smile spreads across Essen's face as he accepts the challenge. Keys flashes this incredibly smug grin, absolutely loving his grand entrance. With a ground-shattering stomp, the dragon's massive foot cracks the very pavement. In the middle of the devastation, the two rivals finally stand together against the beast. Our boy is absolutely losing it, screaming about their epic team-up finally happening. This dragon, however, is not impressed by their shonen friendship moment and roars. Without a second thought, they both dash straight into the danger zone, Keys yelling a warning. Suddenly, a massive wave of pure destruction tears through the ground towards them. Both adventurers leap into the air, narrowly avoiding the ground-level assault. Looking down, Essen panics, realizing the dragon is turning the entire area into a sea of lava. This beast is terraforming the battlefield, creating its own personal hellscape to fight in. Keys casually mentions he can just float, which is great news for him and terrible news for Essen. His rival just laughs it off, mocking the rank monster for its clever little strategy. Panicked, Essen yells at him not to touch the ground, a pretty solid piece of advice. So naturally, Keys ignores him completely and plunges his hand straight into the molten earth. Instead of burning, his hand causes some kind of weird white substance to erupt from the ground. He then reveals his awesome title, Keys of the Scorching Flames, because fire is not just the dragon's thing. This guy then declares himself the strongest fire-wielding adventurer as he launches himself at the dragon. His attack slams directly into the dragon's flank with a massive explosion. For the first time, the beast actually stumbles back, clearly hurt by the blow, and Keys just smirks, casually mentioning his power is still developing, the ultimate flex. Keys rockets through the air, propelled by the sheer force of his own fiery blast. Watching from below, Essen explains he has trained his body to have insane fire resistance, but even with that, he is still charging in like a total madman. His attack connects not with the dragon, but squarely on Keys' back. A look of pure horror crosses his face as he realizes his massive screw-up. He just accidentally added his power to Keys' B-rank explosion, a classic friendly fire moment. Keys is understandably not amused, getting a face full of his own supercharged attack, so naturally Essen yells down at him, suggesting they try a combo move like old times. A wild look of inspiration hits him as a new, probably terrible, idea starts to form. His rival is immediately skeptical, pointing out his power is for offense while Essen's is just for survival. Then it hits Essen, his gift changes his body, but what if he could use two skills at once? He clenches his fist, wondering why he never thought to combine his defensive powers before now. Keys just stares up, completely confused by what his rival is suddenly rambling about. A massive surge of energy erupts around our boy as he tries to merge all his skills into one. This energy solidifies into a massive blade, a new skill he calls the monster-devouring adamant sword. With a furious roar, he declares he is not going to be left in the dust by anyone. This volcano dragon, meanwhile, has had enough of these shonen power-up speeches. It lunges forward just as Essen charges in, meeting the beast with his brand new weapon. He grits his teeth, screaming, "How do you like this?" as his sword slams into the dragon's snout. And for the first time, the dragon lets out a genuine, pained roar. This beast actually staggers back, its claws digging into the pavement from the sheer force of the hit. Its head drops, totally stunned that a puny human actually managed to wound it. That look in its eye is pure shock, the first real damage it has taken this entire fight. Our boy is just as shocked, realizing his brand new sword skill actually connected. Even Keys looks impressed, shouting that the attack actually broke through its tough hide. He's got this massive grin, yelling at Essen that he can actually win this thing. Pointing at the dazed dragon, he tells Essen to go in for the kill while it is reeling. But just as he says that, some kind of white energy blast slams right into Keys. This mysterious attack just completely engulfs him in a flash of light. He gets sent absolutely flying through the air like a ragdoll from the impact. Panicked, Essen screams out his rival's name, watching him get blown away. His silhouette is just a dark shape getting absolutely swallowed by the explosion. A sharp blade slices through the chaos, though it is unclear what it is attached to. This energy erupts as Keys' voice cuts through, saying not to worry about him, because he emerges from the blast looking absolutely unhinged, screaming that he is used to this pain. He then tells Essen to just ignore him and keep wailing on the dragon, priorities, you know. Essen just stares back, completely baffled by his rival's unique brand of strategy. Shaking it off, he grits his teeth and turns his attention back to the real enemy. With a new surge of determination, he charges forward again, sword at the ready. And now it is a full-on two-pronged assault, with both rivals hammering the beast from opposite sides. This dragon lets out a pained roar as the combined assault actually connects. Its eye narrows with pure, unadulterated rage. This thing is officially pissed off. Essen, meanwhile, thinks he is just a little bit away from victory, bless his heart. He is convinced one more good hit is all it'll take to bring this beast down for good. But the dragon just roars back to life, completely unfazed by their little team-up effort. And with a single swipe, our boy gets launched backwards like a human cannonball. He goes flying, cursing the dragon for being so damn persistent. Pinned by the sheer force, Essen realizes he cannot even launch a counterattack from this position. Then something dark and spiky starts falling from the sky, and there is nowhere to run. A whole-ass building just drops out of nowhere and slams directly onto the dragon's head. It gets completely flattened, pinned under the sudden, inexplicable architectural assault. This beast lets out a confused roar, probably wondering when gravity started weaponizing real estate. Essen just stares, trying to process what the hell he just witnessed. His brain is just short-circuiting, unable to comprehend the sudden housefall. A close-up on the roof tiles confirms, yes, that is definitely a building on its head. Our boy is just screaming in total disbelief at the absolute chaos unfolding. He recognizes it immediately. It is Ryuka's workshop that just got dropped on the monster. Even the dragon seems to be asking how a building learned to fly, a very valid question. Suddenly, a cheerful new girl pops into frame, announcing she flew over when she heard about the monster. And Essen's first thought is not reinforcements. It is, yes, a chance to escape. Priorities, man. Essen's face is pure, unadulterated panic. His escape plan just got a name and a face. Perched on the roof, the new girl casually comments on the live volcano dragon she just pancaked. He immediately sprints towards her, screaming that she needs to get the hell out of there. Then our boy grabs her, trying to shield her from the dragon's inevitable comeback tour. She just looks up at him, completely bewildered by this sudden, frantic manhandling. Essen yells at her, asking if she has any idea what kind of mess she's just waltzed into. And right on cue, the dragon erupts from the rubble with a world-shattering roar. Staring at the wreckage, he finally realizes that was his asterisk workshop she used as a projectile. This beast's head slams back down, shaking the very foundations of the ruined city. Through it all, the girl just stares with this weirdly calm, almost curious expression. Still trying to play hero, Essen starts dragging her away from the epicenter of destruction. He's completely losing his mind while she just looks at him, probably about to say something insane. Suddenly, a massive whirlwind of energy tears through the battlefield from a new source, because a whole crowd of adventurers has shown up, with one guy rallying the troops. His face is a mask of shock as he screams out Essen's name in disbelief. Our boy turns around, horrified to see a bunch of low-rankers ready to become dragon food. From the back, the crowd wonders what the hell Essen is even doing here. Then Ellel, the receptionist, cheerfully explains she asked him to come save everyone. Thanks, Ellel. Looking over his shoulder, Essen sees the entire guild has basically followed him into a death trap. But one of the guys shouts they are adventurers too, and they will not just run while their city burns. Despite being beaten to hell, Essen cracks a small, confident smile, ready for round 2. This new girl cheerfully calls them brave, while Essen roasts her for having no idea what she is talking about. He admits they have at least managed to stall the beast, which is something, I guess. So Essen pitches his brilliant new plan. Keys is going to launch him like a human cannonball. Keys asks if he has lost his mind, but immediately agrees because they are fresh out of good ideas. With a final look of trust, they get ready to execute their incredibly stupid last-ditch combo move. Keys grabs onto our boy's back, preparing to unleash a full-power, person-launching blast. And with a massive explosion, Essen is sent absolutely flying straight towards the dragon. He rockets through the air, a one-man, sword-wielding projectile on a collision course. Mid-flight, he realizes his defense cannot possibly cover his entire body from the impact. So he activates a brand new skill, the Basilisk's Evil Eye, for a little extra something. He knows he cannot petrify the whole dragon, but maybe he can freeze just one critical spot. This dragon's eye widens in confusion as the petrification skill starts to take hold, and Essen decides to combine it with his monster-devouring power for the ultimate finisher. His sword slams directly into the dragon's now brittle neck with devastating force. And the beast's entire head just shatters into a million stony pieces, a clean decapitation. He lands, looking back as the massive, headless body finally crashes to the ground. Even Keys is just staring, completely stunned that their insane plan actually worked. This crowd of low-rank adventurers is frozen in total, slack-jawed disbelief. Then the whole guild just erupts into cheers, celebrating their impossible victory. Essen manages a weak, triumphant smile, completely spent but victorious. Ellel, the receptionist, is just overcome with joy, tears in her eyes. Standing tall, Essen soaks in the praise as everyone gawks at the guy who just soloed in a rank beast. But as he walks away from the corpse, he hears something that stops him cold. He turns back to the dragon's massive, headless body, sensing something is deeply wrong, because the other adventurers are freaking out, realizing the damn thing is still moving. A voice cuts through the chaos, basically announcing it is dinner time. And Essen clutches his head, hit by some kind of psychic feedback from the corpse. Elul, meanwhile, is still in hero worship mode, cheering about how he actually beat the dragon. She then suggests he should probably see a doctor, after nearly dying. Our boy just grimly tells her it is not over, much to her total confusion. With a dead serious look, he insists the entire incident has not been resolved at all. So he turns to Elul and asks to borrow her man-stealing gift, which is one hell of a request. She just stares back, completely baffled by what he could possibly need that for. Essen just says he still has something he needs to do, his face set with grim determination. Elsewhere, we cut to a fancy-ass mansion with someone admiring the real estate. A loud blonde guy is trying to introduce a very unimpressed woman to someone in the distance. She is having none of it, telling him to stop talking nonsense or she is leaving immediately. He points right in her face, getting all worked up about Essen of all people. This guy Polaris tells her not to rush off since she will be his property soon anyway, yikes. She calls him delusional and creepy, clearly not impressed by his whole vibe. Even if she is forced to be with him, she insists he will never have her heart. Polaris just looks down, taking in her defiance with a chilling calm. Then he casually mentions he has given up on trying to win her over, which sounds ominous, because his new plan is just to break her spirit instead. What a charmer. Her eyes narrow, a bead of sweat showing she is taking this psycho seriously. Standing firm, she tells him it is impossible, claiming she is not a weak child anymore. He just smirks back, smugly asking if she is really so sure about that. Polaris reveals she has a special weakness that has nothing to do with her own power, hinting at Essen. That hits a nerve and she is visibly shaken by the implication. He admits she is strong in both body and mind, which is why he is not targeting her directly. Instead, his focus is on that low-rank adventurer, our boy Essen. This guy gloats about his schemes to turn everyone against Essen, but the kid was just too stubborn. This woman Wellness demands to know what the hell he is talking about, finally getting a name. So Polaris just grabs her, cheerfully announcing his solution was to have Essen killed. Wellness is just frozen in absolute wide-eyed horror at the news. Leaning in close, he explains her trust in Essen is her weakness, and he is exploiting it to break her. She can only whisper a single word of disbelief, completely floored by his cruelty. Without another thought, Wellness just bolts, sprinting to find Essen and save him. Polaris just lets her go, smugly saying it is useless since he already sent a dragon after him, and does she even know where he is? Wellness is just frozen, the pure horror of his sadistic plan finally sinking in. With her sword at his throat, she screams at him for breaking his promise, demanding Essen's location now. Polaris just stops her blade with one finger, casually calling her scary. This guy has no survival instinct. He even adds that he is looking forward to seeing Essen's corpse arrive just to be a complete monster. She tells him to cut the crap and answer, swearing she will not let him kill Essen to get what he wants. His tone shifts, warning her that after what he has done to her mind, she is in no position to threaten him. Then he goes full psycho, promising to slowly break her until she is completely his. What a catch. But his villain monologue gets cut short by a massive, ground-shaking impact right outside. Polaris is completely thrown, wondering what the hell is going on. He starts raging, demanding to know who dares to attack his property of all things. Peeking from the smoke, even Wellness is confused by the sudden chaos. Polaris's eyes go wide with utter disbelief as he sees who just crashed his party. A figure emerges from the dust, looking like he just walked out of an explosion. And it is Essen standing right there, prompting a shocked scream from Wellness. This villain is just sputtering, completely unable to process how Essen is even here, because our boy just teleported in, landing between them and sending Polaris flying. Talk about an entrance. Wellness immediately asks if Essen is okay and then asks about Polaris too, which is a choice. Her brain is just buffering, trying to understand this sudden, dramatic reunion. Essen, looking like he wrestled a truck, just gives her a huge, relieved grin, glad he made it in time. She immediately starts fussing over how injured he is, while he insists he is totally fine. He is not fine. Polaris absolutely loses his mind, screaming at the guy who just crashed his evil monologue. He demands to know how Essen is even alive since he sent his subordinate to kill him. Essen just deadpans that his so-called subordinate is, extremely dead now. In fact, he adds that the monster got taken out almost immediately after it was unleashed. This villain is still trying to compute how Essen alone could have survived the encounter. But our boy's expression is just pure, unbothered confidence, despite looking like a wreck. A smug grin spreads across Polaris's face as he assumes Essen must have just run away. He gloats that a volcano dragon would not let a low-ranker escape, calling him pathetic for abandoning everyone. Still ranting, he demands to know how in the hell Essen could have possibly beaten a dragon. Then he starts laughing, finally connecting the dots that the weakling Wellness trusts actually won. This words the volcano dragon was defeated finally sink into his thick, villainous skull, and he just completely melts down, screaming that it is impossible for a nobody to win. Essen just tells him to believe what he wants, but the proof is back in the ruined city. Wellness asks if it is true, and he admits he had a lot of help from his friends, but he still gets in a little brag, reminding her it was an rank monster he just dropped. Wellness just stares, completely floored by this guy who just survived a catastrophe. She immediately apologizes for losing her cool, admitting she thought he was dead for sure. Meanwhile, Polaris is in the background, realizing he was the one who underestimated Essen the most. Essen tells her it is not her fault, blaming himself for being too weak to prevent all this. With a grim look, he just says that is the kind of monster Polaris has always been. Polaris gets his villainous swagger back, sneering that Essen is just some pathetic weakling. This guy is absolutely fuming, screaming at Essen not to get cocky just because he got lucky. As Wellness watches in horror, Polaris just keeps on ranting like a spoiled child. She finally snaps, screaming that if this is how it is gonna be, she will just start the fight herself. But before she can charge in, Essen calmly blocks her path, telling her to stand down. Polaris is stunned when his own attack is effortlessly blocked by Essen's hand. In fact, Essen just plants a hand right on his face, shutting him up mid-rant. That is when everyone sees it. Our boy's arm is covered in what looks like dragon scales. This villain starts whining that his attack should have worked because he is a asterisk high-rank adventurer asterisk, you guys. Polaris is absolutely losing it, screaming that this cannot be happening, but Essen is just ice cold. So our boy just winds up and absolutely clocks him right in the face. That one punch sends the so-called high-rank adventurer straight to the floor, completely stunned. Essen then points out the supreme irony of the situation, holding up his arm. It is now covered in the scales of the very volcano dragon that Polaris sent after him. This villain finally gets it, screaming that Essen somehow stole the skill he'd given to his pet monster. Essen just looks down at the mess on the floor, stating that if that was his best shot, this fight is already over. Still on the ground, Polaris rants that it is impossible for a gift to just absorb an enemy's power for itself. Looming over him like a shadow, Essen just calmly confirms that yeah, it happened anyway. He then tells Polaris that it is over and he should just surrender like an adult. This of course sends Polaris into a full-blown meltdown, screaming about how a low ranker dares to order him around. Polaris is having a full-on toddler tantrum, screaming that Essen is basically a monster, not a human. Wellness just watches this meltdown as he whines about being tricked by some kind of beast. Still on the floor, the villain insists he is not the monster here, which is, debatable. But the accusation of being a monster eater actually seems to get to Essen, who looks genuinely stunned. Seeing his distress, Wellness realizes he is taking the psycho's words about his power to heart, so she gives him this incredibly warm smile, reminding him he is going to be the strongest adventurer one day. Meanwhile, Polaris is just a pathetic lump on the ground, completely and utterly defeated. A close-up shows his hands are bound, putting a nice little bow on his spectacular failure. And there he goes, getting hauled away by some officials as our heroes watch the trash take itself out. Essen and Wellness just stand there side by side, looking like the world's most beat-up power couple. With the villain gone, our boy finally lets out a breath, the tension of the fight finally leaving him, and he immediately starts to collapse because it turns out he was not fine at all. Wellness rushes to catch him, calling his name as he just crumples from sheer exhaustion. She has got him, her face a mask of worry as he leans heavily on her for support. Later, in a quiet moment, she thanks him for not losing, admitting how scared she was for him. Our boy just smiles through the pain, promising her that from now on, he is done losing for good. She looks at him with these big, hopeful eyes, reminding him of his promise to catch up to her someday. But Essen corrects her with a grin, declaring he is not just catching up, he is gonna surpass her entirely. That gets a teary-eyed smile out of her as she vows that she will not make it easy for him. She gives him a little playful tap, their rivalry and bond stronger than ever after all this chaos. He points to the sky, telling her to just wait for what is coming next, because he is officially gunning for that one adventure rank and she is right there cheering him on.